All right, here we go. Hughley is back on Vlad TV.
Yeah. Two Calabasas kids meeting up in New York,
That's
baby.
right. That's right. My New York studio this time. Usually we do it in L.A., but here we are in New York. Just happen to be here at the same
For sure,
time.
at the same time. What are the odds?
What are the odds? What are the odds? Well, we have a lot to talk about.
Sure.
But when I actually put out, to my social media followers, what should I ask D.L. Hughley in our next interview? The number one question is, how much are the Democrats paying you to spread lies to the people?
It was
I know you've heard this before.
Yeah, I very rarely listen to because what people think about me is literally none of my business.
Right.
But the thing that's interesting is, you know me for a long time. I work every week.
Yeah.
I'm on the road every week. I do radio every day. It says a lot about somebody who thinks that it has to be transactional. I believe in what I'm saying.
Right.
And if I didn't believe in what I was saying, I wouldn't do it. Like when we had that whole dust up about the vaccine, not only did I take it, my family took it, we all took it together, my grandchildren took it. I don't just talk shit for money. I work for money. I do what I believe. And if it says a lot about human beings who don't believe in anything unless there's a fiduciary connection to it. Like you, I work with you because I fuck with you.
Yeah.
But if they don't like what I'm doing, they're free not to listen. But ultimately, I do what I believe.
Listen, I know the answer, but it's always like some conspiracy theory that you're secretly getting payments under the table. And
I wouldn't. Why would I? Listen, who is Warren Buffett? He invests in things that he uses, right?
Right.
It's prudent to invest in things that you use.
Right, as do I.
You're right. So if you, on the radio, I don't ever advertise something I don't use. So if I were getting paid by the Democratic Convention, I'd say it. Why would I be ashamed of it? And if they were paid, matter of fact, the fact that I work so hard and it is for free makes me a little bit stupid.
You should be getting paid for it.
But that's not my get down. I work so that I can do what it is I love. And I think it says a lot about people and it's the kind of people that say it are these people who sell get-rich-quick schemes on social media, or they got some bullshit podcast. I don't pay too much attention to it.
Yeah, they got 34 followers.
Right.
There's a Cash App on their profile.
Let's make him irrelevant. Before you make me irrelevant, you got to be relevant.
Right. And the other thing was, what does DL stand for? And a lot of people like to joke and say, it stands for download.
Yeah. I was DL before there was a download.
Right. Actually stands for Daryl Lynn.
Yeah, they named that after me, goddammit. But it's because so many things didn't have the connotation they do now. Like I remember there was a song called My Ding-a-ling, right? Remember that's a big song.
Chuck Berry?
Chuck Berry. You can't say that now. You
can't?
Obviously now it has a different connotation, but
what's the connotation now?
I think we can play it on the radio now. You can't play My Ding-a-ling on the radio. You can show them on videos, but you can't take it.
Okay.
You can't use it. You can't play My Ding-a-ling. And then there was one other song. Like I think everything, like even if you listen to all those Christmas songs they say now are predatory.
Really?
And yeah, like Santa Baby and all that kind of stuff.
Santa Baby's predatory now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
I guess he gets her drunk and he does what people.
It's really a date rape song, huh?
Right. He does. It's the same thing as ladies' night at a bar. I guess.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. Well, look, me and you have been in contact this whole time. Just because you don't see Vlad and DL on the internet doesn't mean that we're not constantly talking, because we are. And one of our talking points over the last couple of months was Joe Biden.
Yes.
And I said after the debate with Trump that he should drop out.
You did.
His cognitive ability, I didn't feel at the time, was up to par for him to get reelected. Now, you argued with me about this.
Well, I argue from a historical perspective that a sitting president is the same one that a political mathematician, Alan Lickson, argues that there's very few incumbent presidents. As a matter of fact, it hadn't happened to a Democrat in 123 years where they were an incumbent president and lost. So it was a historical argument that I was having. But when I watched that debate, I knew they cut the microphones off, but the oxygen too? I was like, but I was like, damn. Does he even know we gonna lose? But it was so funny because as fast as people forgot January 6th, I was gonna forget June 26th. They could have rolled him out there like Weekend at Bernie's. Like, to me, if they can vote for a criminal, I could vote for a cadaver. I didn't give a fuck. I swear to God. It could have been Crypt Keeper, because that's just how strongly I feel. But you were absolutely right. And you had the sentiment of I just didn't, there are a couple of things I didn't think. I didn't think that they would be able to do it in a way that didn't fragment the party and have us limping into the election, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't think they would be unified. And everything I've seen, and I think you can tell in the difference between the way the GOP was looking 3 weeks ago and the way they're looking now, because no one saw this groundswell first, it started with his endorsement. She inherited his infrastructure. Then all those people, the black women, got on the calls, and then there was money, and then it was nobody challenged her. It was like, it was kismet. All those things had to line up, and Democrats very rarely do that. So I thought, usually it's more of a circular fire squad. So I didn't believe it could be possible.
Well, yeah, and you have a relationship with Biden, because I remember when we had that conversation, you had just gotten off of Air Force One, where you had a whole conversation with him on the whole flight. Right. So I understand there's loyalty. But look, I also voted for Biden in the last election. I wasn't speaking from, a position of hatred or, I'm a pro-Trump guy, so I'm rubbing it in. No, like, I voted for Biden last time. I was not going to vote this time if Biden ran. Right. You see what I'm saying? So I was coming in from a point of concern. Right. And ultimately, I was right. No
one's ever seen this before. This historically has never happened. Nobody dropped out this close to the election. But I will say this.
No one's been this old before, though. No, keep that in mind also.
Well, now Trump.
This is the oldest.
Now Trump is the oldest.
Yeah, if he wins. Yeah.
Right. No, he's the oldest.
Running.
Biden was running for re-election. Trump is running for election. So Trump is a...
because he skipped the term,
so,
right?
He didn't skip, he got fired.
Yeah.
He didn't skip. He got fired.
He got fired.
And the thing that's amazing is how, like, I just didn't see these, like, it's black women for Kamala, it's black men for Kamala, it's white dudes for Kamala, it's Latins for Kamala, it's Asians for Kamala. They had Republicans for Kamala. Like, literally, Republicans for Kamala. Now Donald Trump knows what it's like to be left for a younger woman. You know what I mean? Like she's doing so well. Like, literally, if he keeps slipping in the polls like that, the only way he's gonna be able to keep her out of the White House is if that motherfucker buys it and refuses to rent it to her. You know what I mean? That's the only way that's gonna happen.
Well, remember, originally he refused to debate her. Right?
I would.
Right. And you had an excellent point when I talked to you about this.
Vlad, I'm married to a black woman.
Yeah.
I'm 0 and 95,000. I'm not gonna argue with you.
You've never wanted an argument.
I have never won an argument. That was worth winning. Like, you might win, but the cost is too much.
Yeah.
Like, you in the middle of the day, and did you tell that to your bitch? Now, see, we was talking about gas prices. Next question, Wolf. I just think, I think the problem with them, people like him, and the Fox News and that whole cadre of people, they only play home games. They only play in friendly confines.
Right. He wanted to only do it on Fox originally, remember?
But where does he go? He never, the NABJ, but I think that when he went to the NABJ, he was told wrongly that he had more, like, he always touts this support of black people, this groundswell of black men, and I think he thought that was the case, and I think it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I almost feel like there's an Obama enthusiasm, like Obama-like enthusiasm with Kamala right now.
It is. And somebody said something I think is very interesting. I think she was born of the movement. People wanted change. They had told us for years, much like you had said, that they didn't want to vote on these two candidates. They didn't want Nikki Haley and DeSantis, who I disagree with vehemently. They actually made a point. They said whoever gets rid of the 80-year-old candidate first is the one that most likely will win. But I think the country is excited about having an opportunity to see something different and to be told. So people made a president, and you have to give him a lot of credit. He's a man I respect a lot. I don't think I've ever... A powerful white dude would rather get shot than give up the presidency. And he did it. And I think he did it because he truly loves his country. So there's no, this conflation they make between Trump and Biden. They're different types of men. I think one clearly loves the country, and one's whole ethos is about what he can do for himself. But I think this doesn't happen. If he does it earlier, then there's a contentious fight for the nomination. I think then, you have the donors fragmented, you have the delegates. So I think everything just had to be in line, and I think the kind of leadership he exhibited, making sure they all came together and give her the best chance to be the 47th president of the United States of America, I think is noteworthy.
Well, when George Clooney wrote that op-ed
yes.
asking for Biden to step down,
yes,
you actually criticized him.
I did, and I mean it. I mean it. I thought that it was unceremoniously the way who is what they were. Like Biden's not what he was. You wasn't George Clooney ain't what he was at Ocean's 12. But ultimately,
he is a major donor though.
Ultimately,
and he has a voice. Ultimately, he was right.
I think that I can't prove a negative. I don't know what would have happened. I can't. I do know what has happened. And I think I was in Detroit that night, and there were a lot of people who were upset at the way it happened. But this groundswell, but never wavering in my affection and devotion to Kamala Harris. I mean, she and I have a relationship that was kind of contentious at first because I said a lot of things I'd heard on the internet. She locked up a lot of black men.
Right. So you made a criticism which was somewhat of a conspiracy theory.
Yes. Not somewhat, a conspiracy theory.
Well, okay. Well, it's a little fuzzy, right? Because
I don't know if it's all that fuzzy, but I'll listen to you.
Well, the conspiracy is that she locked up 1,500 black men for marijuana charges.
Right.
Now, 1,500 men may have been arrested for marijuana charges, but only 55 were actually locked up.
And they weren't all black. They mostly
weren't
black.
all black.
Right.
Marijuana was illegal back then.
That's what I don't get.
And I'm almost positive that the amount of weight they were locked up for, they would probably get locked up for today as well.
Yes.
Right?
The funny thing about that is getting mad at a prosecutor for prosecuting people is like getting mad at a dentist for pulling your fucking teeth. Like that was the job. She doesn't write the laws. Yeah. She enforced them, right? And you elected somebody to enforce the law, to be the top cop in whatever region she was in.
Yeah.
But it stems from this, and my problem is that I loved California. I grew up there my whole life. It was a state that got progressively meaner and meaner and meaner. Like 3 strikes came from there. Proposition 209. There was some people don't remember. Before California was this bastion of liberalism, it was Texas.
Yeah.
It was Texas. Mm-hmm. And so it started to change based on an influx of people that started to change the demographics. But in California, people were going to jail, like the 3 strikes law. The dude who went to jail snatched pieces of it. It was like a crazy thing. And I attached all of that to her as an attorney general. And we were on the radio, and I said it out loud, and we had a bit of an argument about it. And I remember
you and Kamala argued about it.
Yes.
Where?
On my radio station.
Oh, she called in.
Yeah, she was calling in before the. It was for the 2022 election. The midterm election.
Okay.
And so in November of 2023, at the heat of Gaza, she invited me and a bunch of people out to her residence, the vice president, and I was like, I'm gonna tell her the truth. And I got in her house, and I was like, things you did in California I didn't like. And she said, man, this is the most embarrassing shit ever. She put her hand on her, and she said, I can understand you being upset, and if that were true, I'd be upset too. I want you to just, you don't have to listen to me, Google my record. And I came back, and she in fact was right, and the things I had been saying were the stuff of misinformation and fiction. And I told her right then, I said, not only am I going to apologize, I am going to do what I can to make sure you're elected. I didn't say re-elected, I said elected in November. I said that. And then I said, I think that your apology should be as loud as your accusations. And I think that when you assassinate someone's kid, like the things I'm seeing them do to her now, like she's not really black. She grew up in Oakland Well, first she worked at McDonald's. She grew up in Oakland. She went to an HBCU. She pledged AKA, and she once had a boyfriend named Willie. If that ain't black, I don't know what is.
Willie Brown.
And she got a first name white men can't pronounce. So I don't. So I don't understand. So my thing is, I am just trying, in addition to the things I personally believe about her and the virtue that she extols, and I think all of those things. But I besmirched her character, and I did it in a loud way. And I think that my apology and my trying to make that right should just be as loud as my accusation. So that's it for me.
Well, yeah. Speaking of Willie Brown, Trump had told the story about how he was in a helicopter with Willie Brown and it crashed.
Right.
And during that crash, Willie Brown said all these horrible things about Kamala, and they interviewed Willie right after. He goes, "That never happened.
Right.
Just never happened."
It was Nate Holden one's from LA, one's from and you know what? When the plane's crashing, you're not getting ready to go, "Let me tell you about this bitch." You too busy shitting on yourself and praying to God. Even the fanciful notion of that shit.
Yeah.
Like you don't know if you're gonna live, and you spend your last waking seconds going, "Let me tell you about this bitch." That's but even when he does those things, like, I'm not saying Trump has dementia, but I am saying when he had that press conference, all he did was shout at people in his living room. And that's what my daddy did when he got dementia. Let me tell you. All that's missing is the road with the back out. That's the only thing that's missing. That's all.
The whole thing about people questioning Kamala really being black. It's funny because I just had Wes Moore on my show. And Wes was someone that George Clooney actually suggested as a potential president.
He looks like G.I. Joe.
He kind of does, actually.
That motherfucker 6'3", fucking...
Oh, yeah.
He looks like G.I. He looks like... He's a good... I like him a lot. We actually talk a lot, but... I
love the guy, man.
Yeah.
A matter of fact, this was probably the most powerful political interview I've gotten up to this point. An actual sitting governor of Maryland.
Yeah.
Who I think actually has the potential to run for president.
Do you know what's funny? 5 years ago, Donald Trump once said that because Obama did such a horrible job, which obviously isn't true, that we'd never have a black president again. And we only skipped a year. It's like elite black presidents. Like, you know what I mean? It's like Sadie Hawkins black president.
Yeah.
But I think now the thing that I find interesting is the fastest growing demographic in America is biracial people.
Yeah, makes sense.
Biracial people.
Yeah.
So I think they have a different estimation of what that looks like. Because I was, like a lot of people, didn't think, I didn't know America would have this kind of reaction to the first female black president.
I mean, Obama's biracial, Kamala's biracial, and I really just don't like the whole foundational Black America movement. You know, and Tariq Nasheed was just on my show, and I understand and I respect it, but I don't really like it. To try to wedge a line between, Black Americans and Black people from other countries who immigrated or their ancestors immigrated, because obviously Kamala was born in America. If you think about it, but Obama's not a foundational Black American. His dad is African, is Nigerian.
I understand because we didn't call ourselves Black, they did. We didn't tell ourselves. They told us who we were. They told us remember at one point in America, one drop of black blood made you black. And now the very people that made us black are telling us what black is.
Right, not
so
black
I can understand the argument. I don't buy into it. I don't agree with it. Because I think, if you look at the diaspora, they went all over. Every place that didn't have black people indigenously came from the slave trade. So we all had the same fight. I remember I used to go to Jamaica years ago, and they had Africa, Jamaica, and America on a T-shirt that said One Blood. And I think that this fragmentation, although I understand the passion behind the argument, I think that we are one collective, and I think dividing us, it's like having a no peeing section in a pool. Like it's the I don't get
you gonna get pee on you. Someone pees.
I don't get how. I don't get how it works.
Now, in terms of vice presidents, there's some interesting things that have happened.
Sure.
Trump chose J.D. Vance.
Yes.
Now, Vance was originally a critic of Trump. He even compared him to Hitler.
Sure. He said he was America. He could be America's Hitler. Yeah. He said he's never Trump guy. I mean, all of the what he was honest, and now he's transactional. What he was is honest. And if your estimation of somebody changes that whip snap, then either you're being bought or you're lying. If your radar is that far off, your moral compass is that far off, where in the span of a few years, you could go from Hitler to he should be president of the United States again, then either we can't trust you because your judgment is that flawed, or you're a transactional tool.
Yeah. The way J.D. Vance ran up on Kamala on the runway,
I think
basically said, I want to see what my future plan is going to look like,
was
a little disrespectful.
Yeah. There is always this, don't some of the things you hear them say sound Obama-ish? He's not really, then I want us, it's always these other things. And I think that one thing white people have gotten to do is to define what people are. When people get to self-identify, that's probably an affront to a lot of them because they've always done the identifying. We tell you what you are. And now people are, taking ownership of their narratives, and I think that's a bit disconcerting to people. But the things they try to do to shake them off their game just look childish and boorish, and I think turn off a lot of people. Like this abortion issue is the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, and they're talking about the gay marriage, contraception, and even sodomy. Like sodomy, what the fuck does the way I celebrate my anniversary got to do with any of this shit? like, it's hard enough to talk her into it, but now it's illegal? Like I want you to have a good birthday, but I don't want to go to jail. We're going to do it the regular way. Do you realize how silly, like, if we live in a blue state, but if you live in a red state, you can't even literally talk dirty. Hey girl, who pussy is this? She gonna say, well, it's a state legislature pussy right now. And the whole IVF thing, like my oldest daughter, she beat cancer, right? She was pregnant with my second grandchild. And IVF is not just women who are trying to delay childbirth because whatever reason, the large bulk of it, and that would be justifiable enough. No one should have to tell you why or when or how they want to be a parent or if they want to be one. That shouldn't be a institutional or government or bureaucratic vantage point. But a lot of people, because we're hearing studies where younger people are getting cancer earlier and earlier. So some of the treatments are so invasive. What they do is they freeze their eggs and their sperm so that when they're through the treatment, and maybe things have gone well and they're gonna do okay, they now can still have children. Who decides that they want to involve themselves in that? Who are these people that want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, look, Biden actually brought up the idea of term limits for the Supreme Court, and I thought that was a brilliant idea.
Listen,
because Biden had to step down because he was too old, but Supreme Court justices never have to step down. They can literally die on the job.
And they do. Yeah. RBG did.
Yes.
And all the while being further disconnected. If you're mad at Biden and Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, and another thing about Trump, the only reason he didn't look like an old man, because we fixed it on how old Biden looked. But now he's doing exactly the same things Biden was doing.
Yeah, he fell asleep at his own rally.
Had that 20 seconds yesterday is a glitch. Like he's not moving for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
You can't be that fat, not exercise, only eat cheeseburgers, and survive off cheeseburgers, Diet Cokes, and evil, and think that something's not going to happen to you.
Well, the one great thing about J.D. Vance is the memes that have come out.
Yes.
That he had sex with couches.
Yes.
There was a whole AI.
Which isn't true.
There's a whole lot of couches protesting him.
Right.
The eyeliner thing is great.
Yeah. He does look like he wears eyeliner.
He looks like he wears eyeliner.
Have you seen the pictures of him being in drag today?
No.
Look. Yeah, they are.
Let me look this up.
Yeah, he's dressed in drag.
These real pictures of this?
Yeah. They're all over the internet.
Oh.
Yeah, 2 of them.
Oh!
And he says he says it's him, so
J.D. Vance's campaign won't deny that's him in viral drag photo.
Yeah.
Man, we're about to have a drag queen running as vice president for the Republicans.
the absurdity of their arguments are now crumbling under the weight of them. Like the absurdity of their arguments. You're arguing whether she black, your vice president got an Indian wife, she's biracial. Byron Donalds, who is a congressman from Florida, has argued for, Jim Crow, and for a white man that's telling a black woman what her race is. I think that the way that they're having to contort themselves to make their arguments have any rationale or reason are hypocritical and absurd, and they're crumbling under the absurdity of it.
So Kamala has picked her vice president.
Yes.
Now, originally, it was supposed to be Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. That's what they were saying.
I never thought that.
Well, that's what they were saying.
Man.
What's actually interesting is that when you watch his speeches, he actually reminds me of Obama. They were calling him Barack Obama because he's Jewish.
Yes.
And of course, Pennsylvania is one of those states where it could go either way,
right.
So it would make sense for her to go with him.
But it doesn't really make sense because of the last 35, 40 years, there's never been any proof that a vice president delivers the state he's from. Never.
Okay, good point.
Look at the Bill Clinton and Gore were from the South. Both of them were from the South. Mm-hmm. Arkansas and Tennessee. Biden is from Delaware. Kamala's from California. Nothing, so there's no one. Trump is from New York. Pence was from Indianapolis. So there's never been any empirical data that suggested that were true. I think that's a fiction of media primarily. But I think all you can do is pick the person who you feel the most comfortable with, who's going to be. Kamala's in a unique position to me because she is the vice president to a man who was a vice president, a two-term vice president, to a historical figure. So he was a two-term president to a black man. So he picked a female black woman for his presidency. Mm-hmm. She learned what that being in the vice presidency was all about. And it's very rare that somebody from the vice presidency ascends to the level she did before. So you have to pick somebody who you feel like you can get along with for 8 years and who you'll work in lockstep. You'll be in sabbatical. Like, she never tried to shit on Biden because of Gaza. You have to be simpatico. You have to be joined at the hip. And I think she picked a guy who I think, and it makes me proud because the progressive agenda, if I defy you to tell me that progressivism, that conservatism works better for black people than progressivism.
Well, I mean, you said this. You said vice presidents rarely become president, but I actually looked it up. 32% of vice presidents have become president since 1900. Joe Biden, George H.W. Bush, Richard Nixon, Lyndon B. Johnson, Harry S. Truman, Calvin Coolidge, and Theodore Roosevelt.
More senators become president, but you're right. Okay.
So a third of the time it does happen. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that is pretty good odds.
Right.
That is pretty good odds. But Kamala did choose Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Right.
AKA Balls to the Walls.
Yeah. I liked him initially. I liked the progressive mentality. Like, I remember when he became governor, he had a one-seat majority, and he passed all these progressive. The best way, from a political standpoint, one of the most progressive states in the country is Minnesota, right? Mm-hmm. The most conservative state in the country is Mississippi. Yeah. I defy you to make an argument for black people that the conservative works better for them than progressivism. It's not even really a close thing.
I mean, me personally, I liked Josh Shapiro.
Me too.
A lot of people were saying that the reason why she didn't pick him was because of what's happening right now with Israel and Palestine, and there is anti-Semitism is at an all-time high, and so forth. I mean, how much do you think that Israel-Gaza is going to play a role in the presidency?
I know right now people are talking about, rightfully so, because you know how I feel about this. I think that what's going on in Gaza is and our silence about it and our handling it has been a moral quandary for me, and I don't think it's just me. I think it's been for a lot of people. The thing is, I hate what's going on with Gaza, but I'm not going to let America turn into Gilead because of my objection to it. But
Gilead is what?
Gilead is a Handmaid's Tale, you know.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
And I think that Shapiro is also a strong personality. I can't imagine that a man like that wouldn't want to be president. He's dynamic enough. He is telegenic enough. I think that there were a few things. I think the environmentalists didn't like his stance on fracking. I think that some progressive didn't like his stance on tax breaks for the rich. And I think there were some people that probably didn't like his stance on, that thought that his stance on Gaza could have been problematic. I don't know, but I do know that she had a wide swath of people to choose. To me, the best one she could have picked, besides if it weren't going to be him, I would have liked Gretchen Whitmer. But people are like, I'm not going to have two women. So I think whatever the reason is, I think Walz reminds me of Biden with that folksy kind of, granddad kind of thing. And I think that stands in direct contrast to what she is. But I love the notion that we're going to try to be more progressive than we were before. I think that you can't tell me that a nation that wants to control a woman's womb is sane, but wanting to feed children is radical. I don't buy that notion.
Well, one of the things that keeps coming up is Project 2025. Now, Trump says he doesn't know anything about that. He doesn't know about the guy who's behind it, even though there's pictures of them having dinner together and so forth. So let me kind of give everyone a rundown of what Project 2025 is. It's also known as the 2025 Presidential Transitional Project. It's a political initiative published by the Heritage Foundation that aims to promote conservative and right-wing policies to reshape the United States federal government and consolidate executive power if Trump wins the presidency.
Exactly.
So basically it plans to assert the entire executive branch under the direct control of the president under the unitary executive theory. It actually talks about reclassifying tens of thousands of federal service workers as political appointees in order to replace them with people loyal to the president.
Yep.
They're saying this would actually dismantle what they view as a vast, unaccountable, and mostly liberal government bureaucracy. That's what people that want this to happen is trying to actually do. And it's also looking to infuse government and society with conservative Christian values.
Right.
They're saying this is basically an authoritative move.
It is.
If it actually happens.
Is. If you've read it, some of the things they want to get rid of Social Security, the social safety net. They want to get rid of Medicare.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of the Department of Education, the EPA, and all these things that get in the way of them making money. But the thing about it is, I don't believe that Trump is intelligent enough or savvy enough. I think he's a useful tool to them. I think that he gets a lot of stuff done, and he's transactional enough to not care. I don't know that he had a position on abortion, but he did what the Heritage Foundation wanted him to do, which is pick 3 questionable judges so that they can affect what they wanted.
Right. Even though the last judge said that he would not touch Roe versus Wade,
they all said
only to vote against it.
All of them said it.
And I hate that, man.
Yeah. So I don't know that he has to be. He's a useful idiot to them. He like why pick J.D. Vance? What he wrote a book, and he's a 2020 Project 2025 acolyte. His benefactor is one of the doesn't believe that poor people should be able to vote or that women should be able to vote, that should be consolidated in the hands of the very wealthy. Now, that's the concept of America. At first, it was just rich white landowners. And so when they're talking about going back, but he is convenient for them. He'll barter. He'll buy and trade. The art of the deal for him. So it doesn't, and I said this before, to most white guys, if you're a straight white guy in America, nothing for you really changes, right? Nothing for you. But if you're black, brown, yellow, a woman, handicapped, gay, or anything other, then everything could change. And so I think that the more people have become aware of it, the more unpopular it has been. Like, the thing that I found ironic is he goes on Truth Social and talks about how he made the president of Project 2025 step down. You remember that? Now, how the fuck you fire nobody you knew? How did you fire a motherfucker you had no idea who was there? You don't know what it is. And so I think that if we're being honest, at the time of this interview, it really looks like the Harris-Walz campaign is becoming a freight train. It's becoming irresistible. It's becoming immovable. It's starting to get Obama. There were like all these movies. I think Kennedy was one. I think Reagan was something like that. You know,
I
a
agree.
movement.
Yeah.
I think Clinton did that kind of thing.
Yep.
I think.
I'm gonna have to stop you on Clinton because I think that if it wasn't for Ross Perot,
he wouldn't. Yeah.
George H.W. Bush would have actually won.
Right.
Because Perot split the Republican vote. So I can't totally
but
agree
I'm
with you
talking
on
about
that one.
The young people getting involved.
I think after he got elected, people got excited.
That's
over
what,
it.
so
yeah.
then Obama, that thing, because if you look at Clinton, they were more excited the second time than they were the first.
Yeah, I agree,
Obama, they were more for the first time than they were the second. And I think Trump did that too. I think Trump, people were really excited. Whoever it was really excited. So you see these phenomena. I think you know that something's happening when your opponent is telling you that you made niggas up. Like it's all AI. Name me somebody who's in the heat of a pitched battle and they don't go out. Like he's not campaigning, he went to Montana. But I don't have anything to base it on. I think Trump thought that this was gonna be a cakewalk. He didn't care who he got for his VP because it didn't matter because he was going to win.
Well, I think when Biden was running, he probably did think it was a cakewalk.
No, there's no doubt. I can get anybody from a
once
VP.
Kamala came around and he saw the actual excitement over her, it was like, now we got a.
But not only that, I don't think I think all that money he got, he wasn't going to spend on campaigning. He wasn't. You know that he's going to spend on his legal fees and line his own coffers. Because a political campaign, you need infrastructure, you need offices, you need people knocking on doors, you need people making phone calls, you need people setting up routes, you need all of those things. He didn't feel like he needed it. Like if you look at today, they're reporting that he has all these outstanding debts in all these cities. You got the money. I think he was gonna keep that money and line his own coffers with it, because you know he would. And then all of a sudden, you have a freight train you got to run against. You can't just buy. I watched the Olympics. Did you see one Trump campaign, one commercial? Not one.
No.
But you saw a lot of Kamala Harris commercials, right?
True.
How? Why are you seriously running for president? Because you kept that goddamn money. You was going to keep that money. And now, you need it.
Crazy. I mean, what'd you think of the whole shooting incident?
Listen, I think that the funny thing about the argument for the AR-15 is that it is that militias want to have it in case of a tyrannical government, right? Sometimes the tyrant they shoot at is the one you like.
Right. He was a registered Republican, the shooter.
Yes.
Yes.
He could have gotten to Harvard. He could have gotten to Harvard. He was that bright. He's a bright kid.
Was he?
Yes.
He was working at an old folks' home.
Yeah, but he's a bright man. He's a bright kid.
Okay.
And people
usually the best and brightest don't end up at old folks' home in their early 20s. Like,
well,
I'm just saying.
The Ted Kaczynski ended up in the fucking forest, and he was a bright man. But the other thing is, everybody like, why didn't they have snipers? People forget, what was the Secret Service doing? That motherfucker wasn't the president. He was a dude vying for the job. He's not going to have the level of protection that the president would have.
Yeah, but they did drop the ball. Because, for example, look, we interviewed a former Army sniper, Nicholas Irving, who actually did security work for both Biden and Hillary Clinton. So he's aware of how these things actually work when they were like in Iraq and so forth. He said that was a total breakdown. He said, why the hell do they not
why?
Cover that one building?
Do you know why?
Seems so obvious.
Because he is not the president. He doesn't get the same level of protection that the sitting president does. And people are associated. He had a security detail that he's going to have for the rest of his life. And it probably, RFK got one too. But they're not going to sweep buildings and put snipers on roofs. That ain't going to happen. When Obama goes to see a play, you don't see fucking snipers on the roof. That's not what happens. And the thing that we're not remembering is this is the first time an ex-president who got voted out is trying to get his job back. In the modern history, we've never seen that.
Yeah, this is a long time ago.
And when they're talking about, shooting presidents we've had 4 presidents two got assassinated.
Right.
They tried to kill Ford twice.
JFK, Ronald Reagan got shot.
Right.
Theodore Roosevelt got shot.
He got shot, and now Trump got shot.
But he wasn't a sitting president.
He wasn't a sitting president. Reagan got shot.
Yes, I said, yeah.
And Gerald Ford, they tried to kill twice.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that.
They tried to kill Gerald Ford twice. So that's what we do. We murder people. We murder presidents. We attempt. So it's not. Here's what I will tell you. If you got shot and you're still behind on the polls, people don't fuck with you.
That's true.
People don't fuck with you.
Because at the time, you thought, okay, he's a shoo-in.
We had that conversation, yeah.
You know,
and he ain't.
50 Cent was coming out with many men with a picture of Trump, you know, superimposed on a picture of him.
Let me tell you something. This is how bad it is. This motherfucker went from many men to my heart would go on from the Titanic. He went from 50 Cent to Celine Dion. I'm not even making that shit up.
I think he's getting sued for that too.
Yeah, he is. How the fuck you go from many men to my heart go to watching Jack get drowned on a piece of wood? Like, how the fuck that happen?
Okay, let's switch gears. Now, you said you would never go on Club Shay Shay.
No.
Okay. And you said something interesting. You said that Shannon Sharpe's interview with Katt Williams was predatory and messy, and it doesn't feel this is a fair example of relationships among black comedians.
I don't think so at all. I think that like any other endeavor, there are jealousies, idiosyncrasies, there's all, but I don't think that's indicative of the experiences that most of us have. And I think that after the Katt Williams interview, which was a phenomenon, he kept trying to replicate it.
Oh, I bring another black
Shannon
comedian?
kept trying to replicate it. He kept trying to let me bring on somebody else to have a beef and then do, like, it just got to be, like, I can understand it was a phenomenon, but then all of a sudden you tried to replicate it. So to me, just like you love what you do, he love what he does. Mm-hmm. For me, as a matter of principle, it is too messy. Or now I think it's morphed into something else because I think that has kind of, that brook has run dry. But for me, it's just all of those people I saw on there were people who wanted to go on there because of what happened with Undisputed. The way, and I've talked to you about it here before he even had that. With the way Skip did him, made me and a lot of black people go, fuck this, we're gonna make sure this brother's okay. But then you take that, and the very people that got there first, I think were damaged by the first iteration of what went on. And it's, for me, I would never do it.
Well, yeah, you said you've never heard anyone say anything bad about Cedric the Entertainer.
I never.
Until the Katt Williams interview.
Yes, and I was glad it happened. Because I was so tired of nobody saying nothing bad about Cedric.
Take some of this heat that I've been taking all these years. Here, have some.
I called him, I was like, man, I'm so glad it...
I met Cedric, man. Cool dude.
He's a
I've never
wonderful
interviewed him, but I've met him before. We've talked. Cool
He's a wonderful fucking dude. Yeah. And frankly, it was about time somebody said some shit about him. Frankly, I was disappointed it took so long.
Were you actually asked to come on Club Shay Shay?
Yes, I was going to do it like a long time ago. Honestly, before that happened, I had been slated to do it a couple of different times. I just didn't. But it has become something to me. I mean, I'm glad he's making his money. I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. I don't have I'm not jealous or hateful. It's just something you don't need me to do it. You got all it's just a personal thing I wouldn't do. I'm not going to do it. And people can say, why you do Vlad, not him? I fuck with you.
Yeah, we have a relationship.
I don't got to fuck with it. If I don't want to fuck with you, and you don't need me anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I didn't like...
And he was my favorite football player ever.
Now, he's dope.
He's my favorite tight end ever. Ever.
The thing that I don't like about Shannon Sharpe after that interview is that he started putting out this information that he made more money off this interview than he ever made in any year playing football. And he made something like $2 million playing football. And I remember when I questioned it, because I know YouTube. I've known YouTube for 16 years, right? I know how many views brings a certain amount of money and so forth. And yes, I know there's also like the streaming, on Spotify and so forth, but there's no possible way he made $3 million off that one interview, right? It's just not possible. And I remember he responded, not to me directly, but he took little shots at me and so forth, saying, oh, if you think I made this, I really made this. And this is the problem that started to happen by him putting it out there. So recently, I reached out to Marlon Wayans to do an interview. He came back with $40,000 plus 30% of all future revenue from this interview.
Right.
which I thought was completely ridiculous.
Right.
And I told him that. I remember I said, listen, Marlon, I would rather have you say that you don't fuck with me rather than give me this stupid ass number.
Right.
And I think that these numbers come from Shannon Sharpe putting this out there. Well,
I don't think it's just from...
He made $2 million off that. I guess 40,000 is not that big of a deal.
Marlon, in our talks, right, he hit me. And I don't know what the figure was. He's my favorite Wayans. Like, so I remember...
Yeah, I thought Marlon was dope, which is why I reached out to him in the first place.
He's a dope dude. And two things I'll say. One, when my old man died, I'll never forget, he hit me. And he said, I don't play golf, but I know you do. And I'll play golf with you till you feel better. And it was the dopest thing ever. So Marlon hit me and asked me about you, and I said, I fuck with him. So I can't really, I don't know what the financial constraints of anybody's dynamic is, nor do I ever ask. I talk to you because I fucking talk to you. Don't make me, never mind. But I do think that people now, because of not only that, but all these in the zeitgeist, there's this thing where people are trying, and I think rightfully so, to get what they believe is a fair share of whatever their, whatever their images or likenesses or brand is. So I don't know what that would look like, but I do know that is a conversation people have a lot.
Look, I had to explain to Marlon that asking me for $40,000 plus 30% is the equivalent of me asking him to perform at my comedy show for $100. That's the equivalent. That's the type of offer in terms of ridiculousness that we're doing here. Right? There's no possible way I'd pay him $40,000. Because I explained to him that your interviews, like for example, on The Breakfast Club, your last Breakfast Club interview did about 300,000 views. I did more than twice that myself.
Right.
And I don't charge The Breakfast Club, and neither did you. So my thing was, it was sort of insulting. I offered him a fair offer, and he wasn't interested. So I'm like, all right, cool. It is what it is. To me, it left a bad taste in my mouth.
I think to me, and I can only speak for me and our dynamic, I dig talking to you, and I get good liquor and cigars.
You didn't get cigars this time, though. I couldn't find any.
No, I will. No, you're going to find
them.
Okay,
I owe you cigars. Yeah,
but I think the reason things like this work is because, just like when you watch a roast, I'd never do a roast either, because the people I see, they got to like you. The old roast were people who liked you had a relationship with, and then it was funny. It wasn't predatory. Now, it's like people that are funny, writing funny, evil shit that you can't laugh at because you can take a joke coming from somebody you fuck with.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to just stand around and let somebody that I don't even know, right? Why would I do that? And so I think this dynamic has to be the same thing. I think it works because you have to be interested in people. It has to be one of two things. Either you have insight and a way of dealing with somebody that leads them to go down paths they wouldn't, or you see that they like when I watch you and TK, I'm like, they fuck with each other. It's
that's
funny.
What I meant.
I see Boosie, I say they fuck with each other.
Listen, I have asked TK how much better his career has done because of doing Vlad TV year after year.
Yeah.
His words, not mine. I would never claim that. I have no idea what's in his pockets. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But he said that the amount of bookings and his overall visibility and opportunities have increased drastically. Most comedians that do my show regularly have all told me the same thing.
Right.
So my thing was like,
I get a lot of death threats from fucking
death threats? We all get them.
It ain't the same for me, but thanks. Thanks for telling me how you helped other motherfuckers.
My thing is that, what I told Marlon was like, I'm going to give you this offer. This is fair based on your numbers.
Right.
And look, if it does well, maybe later on, whatever. And it's like, nah, not interested. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to talk about it then. And I remember me and Aries talked about it, and I sent him, the clip, and he was like, yo, you don't want this smoke from me. You don't want me to respond. I said, please respond. Please respond. Go for it. I said what I said publicly, because the problem was that first of all, he passed me off to someone else to do the negotiations, right? And this woman came back with that number said, well, this is based on how much he gets for a show. And I'm like, this is not a show.
Yeah, right.
People are not buying tickets. There's no 2-drink minimum. They're not buying chicken fingers and hamburgers along the way and so forth.
No ancillary.
It's not the same thing. It's an appearance. It's on YouTube. You have to realistically look at it. And all these other platforms like Drink Champs and, Breakfast Club, you don't charge for them. So to turn around and give me this insane number I'd rather say, I just don't want to do it. That's my thing. I would rather, if I give someone a stupid number, it means I don't really want to do it. Right. And if I want to do it, I'll work with them or I'll just do it for free.
Well, this is a weird position for me, man, because I fuck with both of you guys. So
and that's cool.
So
and listen, at one point, Marlon can come on my show for something that I'm not going to totally lose my shirt on.
Right.
It makes no business sense. It's ultimately a business. He would not go and perform at a comedy club for $100. And I'm not going to have him do my show for $40,000 plus 30%.
By the way, I'm at the Ice House every Wednesday that everybody get $100 for. In Pasadena. Yeah, I mean, listen. I can only speak for me.
Yeah.
I fuck with you, so I never asked you what this is. So I don't
there
know.
You go.
I can't.
And you do not get $40,000 plus 30%.
Right. Yes, I do. I get 40. Let me start some shit. Yes. Derek, get the backpack with the money in it.
Well, Katt Williams said that you were the greatest king of comedy out of that lineup.
I love Katt, and I think that their assessment of that, like it's almost like telling you that you were the greatest high school football. I mean, that's a pleasant memory, and I think of it fondly, but I don't. It's not where I live anymore. It's like the kings of comedy. Literally, my children are grown. My children are grown and married, and that's a whole different lifetime ago. I love doing it. I had a great time doing it. I work with people I love and will love forever, and have fond memories of it. But I never really think. The only time I hear Kings of Comedy and think about it is when somebody brings it up. But it was a great fond memory, and I'm glad that somebody somebody who I respect a great deal would think that.
If you were to put together 4 of the new Kings of Comedy right now, who would they be?
If I were gonna do it, oh man, there's so many.
Excluding yourself, of course.
I think that if I were going to do it now, it would probably be selfish and myopic. I know.
No, I'm not saying you do it. I'm just saying if you were the promoter.
If I was
someone asked you, hey, we're going to do a Kings of Comedy 2024. If I could pick 4 people that you can get behind.
If it were me and I could do it right now, it would be the 3 of the original ones and Earthquake.
An Earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I were
Earthquake's been a regular on my show.
Or 3 of the original one, and if George Lopez would do it, I would love it. I mean, so I think it would be somebody who I have. For me, George is one of my dearest friends and been uber successful, never really changed. But Earthquake has, first off, I love his brother, Terrence, more than I love him, so that's I love Earthquake a lot, but his brother's Terrence is what. But to watch somebody struggle and work that hard and finally start to get what it is that you knew that they deserved, it makes you, it reaffirms your faith in what talent and hard work and stick to it means. So if I were doing it, it would be, me, Sid, Steve, Earthquake, and probably George, if he would do it.
Yeah, I remember when I interviewed Earthquake, and he went and did the routine about, if I'm caught, we caught.
Yep, hilarious.
And I'm snitching on my own grandmother. Right. She's lived her life, let me live mine. Right. And the way he just broke that down was one of the funniest moments that I've ever experienced.
Nigga, if they catch me, they caught us. That's why I don't do nothing. I can't go to jail. They rape motherfuckers in jail.
You said you would snitch on your own mother.
You goddamn right. She got to do the time. She done lived her life. Let me live my life. Shit, fuck it. Let's snitch on grandmama. She 80. We looking for a place to put her. Look at God. Won't he do it? They put her in a home. We can go visit her. Put shit on her books. There it is.
She won't know the difference.
She won't know the difference. She got Alzheimer's. She don't know. Put these keys in her Bible. Say these was her drugs. She was the mastermind. Don't fall for this shit. She don't know who she is. That's it.
He makes me laugh sometimes so much I get mad at him. I'm like, God damn. He's just he is a build as advertised. His name, he lives up to his name.
Yeah. Well, you said, I don't know any person who's never stolen a joke.
I don't.
So you say everyone steals jokes.
I'm saying this. I don't know everyone, but I don't know anyone who has stolen a joke.
So you've stolen jokes?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Who did you steal from?
I was a kid. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I used to take Robert, when I first started out 30 years ago, it was Robin Harris.
Aha.
Yeah. And I remember Tommy Davidson, we were at this place. It's not even open no more. It was on Encino and Balboa in the Valley. And Tommy Davidson came up to me and goes, I think I've been doing comedy maybe a year. And Tommy Davidson came up to me and he said, hey man, you know that's Robin Harris stuff. And I wanted to fight Tommy, but he was right. And right then and there I learned I'm not doing that no more. So I know that everybody, so I can only say, I cannot say that everybody steals jokes, but I can say everybody I know I've seen do stuff that I've seen other people do.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when, because, I interviewed Carlos Mencia. I think we talked about this last time. And he was one of the few comedians that was somewhat canceled over jokes.
I don't know anybody else who got it that bad.
Yeah, he got it the worst.
And I don't know anybody who deserved it less.
Big, huge venues to doing clubs in, middle America.
And I thought it was the most unfair, sad shit I've ever seen.
I agree.
He's a good man.
Nah, I think he's a funny guy.
He's a very funny guy.
I think he's a very funny guy. And what TK said was, okay, so you take a line from someone. Who cares? He was like, even saying how like Katt Williams, one of his specialists, said, who raised you? And that's obviously his tagline. He said he doesn't care. Whatever. A line, a little 30 seconds, a minute here and there. Now, no one ever takes an entire routine.
People have.
Yeah. And Carlos was accused of that.
I don't know that. Here's the thing. And this is as honest as I know how to be about it. Everything I saw him doing seemed authentically him.
Yeah.
So if it had a nuance of somebody else, if it had, and then they were like, his name is this, and he was born here, and it just started to be this piling on kind of thing. I think he's a tremendous comic. I think that it seemed patently unfair what happened to him.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it was way out of bounds and disproportional. It's like when you got a can of Raid and you use the whole can to drown a roach. It was too fucking much.
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about this. I really want to take it upon myself to bring him in as a regular guest and really start building him back up again.
Funny,
not building back up, because I don't think I could do that. But what I'm saying is put him out there and really get people, really warming up to him again so he could get back to where he was.
Hey, man, this is what I will say. I know when people are starting to interview with you because on my algorithm, I'll start to see them.
Yeah.
And then I'll start seeing people request them. And then I'll start seeing them work. So you have a broad base of people. I remember it's this cat named Toure, man. He's out of Philly. And one night, I'm up. And this motherfucker made me laugh so goddamn hard. I said, I posted it. And he woke up and he had like 100, 200,000 more extra followers. That's what you're supposed to do. When you find a thing that you find, it's like when you find a great restaurant or you see a great piece of art or you learn something that is transcendent and you want to share it, that's what you're supposed to do. And I think having a space like this with so many people is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Carlos, you got an open invitation.
Yeah.
I'm going to reach out to you. Now, someone brought this up. I don't know whether this is true or not, but since you know him, you might be able to answer this question. There is this rumor that Steve Harvey tried to get Bernie Mac's role on Ocean's 11.
Right.
And even try to, undercut him in price and stuff like that. Do you know anything about the story?
I've heard that, but I don't know that that's true.
Okay.
I've heard that before, so I don't know that that's true. It doesn't seem like something I've seen before. I've seen it do, so I don't know if that's true.
What was Steve and Bernie's relationship like?
Well, when they were, it was weird because when we were on Kings of Comedy, Sid and Steve were on the project together, and me and Bernie I was on ABC and he was So we would kind of all just hang out together. So I never knew that anything was weird until later on. But I think that for the good of the thing that we were doing, the good of the project, you never saw anything but respect and people being cordial. So when I found out later on that there was something other than that, it just seemed out of sync with what I experienced on the Kings of Comedy. So I never saw them do anything like that. I never did. And if I did, it would be simple enough to say it.
John Witherspoon said something interesting. What I think was his last interview ever before he passed away. He said that Steve Harvey actually fashioned himself after Richard Pryor, down to the mustache and, the dress and the overall style and everything else like that, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, Richard Pryor was everyone's hero at one point.
Who wouldn't?
Right.
Who wouldn't?
Did you notice that at all? Have you ever talked to him about that?
I didn't. But I think it's hard to be not influenced by, I think, the greatest comic that ever lived, right? Like, so he was our North Star. So it wouldn't shock me. I mean, if you could grow, let me tell you something. If you could grow a mustache like Richard Pryor, I would do it. But I'm not capable.
You've always talking about your goatee, but no mustache.
No, I wish I could do it.
Well, what's going on with your mustache? Have you ever grown your mustache out?
And it's nothing like that.
Might have to have
it looks like all that's left of my ex-girlfriend.
We'll have to get a hair transplant.
I think but people are doing that, right? But I think that those things are, what do they say, flattery, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Mm-hmm. I think you had a lot of people who were, just like now, I think Chappelle is that way, where people kind of emulate his cadence, his style, I think that, so there are these people that kind of, these outliers that kind of just everybody's drawn to, and they kind of set the North Star, and people will try to gravitate toward that. But that wouldn't shock me.
I mean, you criticized Gerard Carmichael for calling out Dave Chappelle over the
I did. I thought that was crazy. I think it's crazy for any comic to get mad at a comic for doing a joke.
Yeah.
I think this is stupid. I do. I think like when Michael Richards said what he said, it was a joke. Whatever. That
wasn't a joke. That wasn't a joke. Talking about the whole N-word thing.
Think, yes.
That wasn't a joke. That was him getting heckled and angrily responding. That was not part of his routine. I don't think he went to that show going, okay, today I'm going to say that black people should be hanged.
I think that I'm such a proponent of free speech that I believe that you should be able, now obviously, and people get it confused, you're not free from consequences, but I'm really a proponent of free speech, and I respect somebody's right to have a divergent opinion, whether I agree with it or not, and to be loud about it. Now, I will respect your right to do it. It doesn't mean I like it or that I'm going to stay there while it happens, but I'm not going to shout. I don't believe somebody should be shouted down because they say things that I think are offensive or don't agree with. I just choose, I got a remote and I got ears. Like I can just turn. But I think the thing that what really vexes me is, why do people, it's almost like when somebody goes, hey, this milk is bad, taste this. No, motherfucker, I don't want to taste it. Why do I, so I think that we have this thing where not only do I not like a thing, but I got to get this cabal of people to not like it too. But I really believe that free speech, and I think it's particularly incendiary when an edgy, bright comic does some things that people don't agree with, and he says something else about another edgy, bright comic. I think that's disingenuous. I do. I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Richards got legitimately canceled. You really have not heard of him since. From that moment on, which was my God, which is 2006 or 5 or something. Mm-hmm. The next time I saw him was Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, where they were talking about that incident. I haven't seen him in any roles. Right. I haven't seen him doing stand-up. I've seen no specials. He's really been laying low this whole time.
But he could. He got Seinfeld reruns. He could
he got that money.
He'll be all right.
Yeah,
but it's not rare. I don't know that I think you're lucky if you get that kind of role ever. Yeah. So I don't know that repeating that would be something. And he wasn't the star of it. He was
no, he wasn't the star. But I mean, you really ever? Now listen, and that was horrific what he did. But I mean, listen, look at Justin Bieber. He had a song, where he's talking about killing black people. And now he's still a huge superstar, and every black person works with him still.
Look, was the kid, the country singer that said, nigga, Morgan Wayans.
Once again, I think that if Michael Richards basically owned up to it and said, listen, I am so sorry. I messed up. I have no excuse for it. I'm going to take whatever insults and, barbs you have because I deserve it. And I'm going to keep working, and I'm just going to, you know what I'm saying? I think he could have potentially came back.
I don't believe that's true at all.
Really?
I think
so you think what he did was so over the top?
I don't think that at all. I think that he wasn't a big enough star for that to do that. I think if you are Bill Cosby, we knew what he was doing, but he made us feel so good that we made excuses for him. R. Kelly, big enough star. We knew he was a monster, and we were so. Donald Trump, as abominable as he is, he's a big enough star to people. So I think his problem is not that what he said, it's that he wasn't the lead when he said it.
Yeah, I disagree. I disagree. I feel that there's only 3 ways that you can get canceled. You die.
Right.
You go to prison.
Right.
Or you just stop working.
Or you're not high enough on the totem pole.
Nope, or you just stop working. There is still going to be an audience if Michael Richards continued to do stand-up, continue to work on projects. Look at, what's his name, Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is still getting roles.
Mel Gibson was a big star.
I understand he was a big star, but everyone has an audience. People still love Seinfeld. Seinfeld was not taken off the air because of that.
Because
he still has a huge audience because of Seinfeld.
Right.
And he could have kept working, but he decided that the embarrassment and what he did was so much that he's just going to go underground.
That's an internal thing, but I would say
that's an internal thing, yeah.
If the examples of the people you mentioned, we mentioned the Morgan Wayans, the Justin Bieber, they're luminary talents. He isn't that, right? He isn't. Mel Gibson, he said he hoped his wife get raped by a pack of niggas. I'm like, a pack of niggas?
A pack.
I've never even seen a pack of niggas. Where do you get a pack of niggas from? Give me $20 I'll put one in a pack of them niggas there. And then he did a movie called The Passion of the Christ, right?
Yeah.
But he was such a big star. That those people go with it. Even now, today they were talking Kanye West bought a white supremacist over Donald Trump's house.
Mm-hmm.
He's openly praised Hitler.
Yes.
Openly.
Yeah.
And niggas still fuck with him.
#1 song in the country.
So he's that big a star.
Yeah.
You got to be, and so Michael Richards was a part, and I would say that he was the 4th, 5th guy on the cast.
Yeah, I get it.
So that's why
But he has a memorable role. Him walking into the room was always funny. He has an actual audience, and he could have slowly built that audience up if he didn't just give up.
But that's him giving up. That's not big.
He gave up.
That
I'm
may
not
be true.
saying he would have done stadiums and gotten a big Netflix special, but he could have continued to work, could continue to get work, continue to get bookings.
Right.
Listen, he may have to do a bunch of free bookings to just show the promoters that, hey, listen, I can bring a crowd. I'll do it for free.
Maybe they don't want to, but I think that the people who keep on going and the people who, at a certain level, that's how bad we need to feel good. When somebody's made us feel good artistically, when they tap into a place in us, like you can remember where you were when you heard a song and who you were with and how you felt, or when you watched a certain thing, when you imbue yourself in somebody's psyche like that, it's almost impossible for them. It's almost like I read something, and when a man makes love to a woman and he has an orgasm inside her, he imprints himself in her. He imprints, and so that becomes a bond. Not everybody, but that physiological connection can become a bond that's undescribable and almost unbreakable.
Now listen, I have seen too many comeback stories throughout my life. 2 Chainz,
right,
in his late 30s, came back after Players Circle came and went and became one of the biggest rappers with a new name, with a new cadence and so forth. You could do it. You could do it no matter what's happened to you in the past. And in fact, people love comeback stories. And in fact, the fact that you take responsibility. Listen, I messed up too. I've apologized for lots of shit. Right. And,
but I think
yes, people got mad at me at the moment, but ultimately I kept coming out with good product.
Right.
And, I continue to do well.
I don't know that Michael Richards had that in his warehouse, but I don't think he cares about it enough like that. Because if I love the thing, I ain't gonna let you keep me from it. If I love the thing,
maybe stand-up wasn't his thing.
I don't know, but I will say this. In terms of canceling a thing, I think that there are people who canceling mean that everybody, like, yes, you could take, even if you took their financial apparatus away, they took, real, blocks of financial pieces for Kanye, and he's still huge.
Yeah.
Because people fuck with him.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson, they took, we ain't gonna do, and people fuck with him. Yeah. You could be that big. Michael Richards was the fifth lead in a show where he got 2 lines of show.
Yeah, but look at Louis Dreyfus. What's her name?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
She was a big star, though.
She went on to do Veep. Huge show.
She had a different ether.
She was not the star of Seinfeld.
I think that she had a gear that Richards didn't. I don't think he had that gear.
I don't know.
I don't know that he does or doesn't.
I don't know. Listen, at this point, it's all rewriting of history and what if and so forth. But all I know is, if you come out with dope shit and you keep doing it, people will eventually forget. They'll eventually forgive, and you could have a comeback story that people will actually respect.
Yeah,
and that's all I'm saying. So
but when
everyone out there, just keep going.
When you got mailbox, when you got Seinfeld residuals,
and maybe that was it. Maybe I'm making so much money over here that I don't feel like doing a bunch of $1,000 stand-up shows out in Iowa and doing all that traveling. I'll just stay canceled and I'll just collect these checks because honestly, it pays my bills.
Yeah,
and that's probably what happened. You said that Monique's Netflix special was the most unremarkable bullshit that you've ever seen.
It is.
I haven't even watched it. Me and her husband have such a bad history. I didn't want to watch it.
I think that when you work that hard, you want a thing that bad, it should at least, you could go, now I can see what all the fuss is about. I thought it was unwatchable.
Beverly Hills Cop 4. Mm-hmm. Did you watch it?
I did not. Mm. You know what? Like things like that, like some of those things are so special to me that I don't want to see. Like, remember how they say never meet your heroes because they'll only disappoint you?
Yeah.
It's kind of that feeling to me. I don't want to see anything. Like, I remember 1 and 2, and it was at the apex, and now I'm just worried that it'll taint the way I see things.
Yeah, it was extra mediocre. And I was such a fan.
That's what, and I don't want that to happen.
I was such a fan. The first one, you could argue was a top 3 Eddie Murphy movie, period, right? Even the second one.
I think, or you could argue it's one of the top comedies ever, and particularly comedies ever.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's in that fucking zeitgeist. So I was like, I'm not watching shit that makes me.
Yeah, and they had the budget. It was like a $150 million budget movie. There was like helicopter crashes and all types of car demolitions and whatever else. You had Eddie Murphy. You brought in, they brought in a whole bunch of some of the original cast members as cameos. So it was all there on paper. But, like Aries said it that, Aries' point of view was that Eddie was just too old to pull off that role.
I don't know if that's true. What I'll say is this. For me, it would be like, how do you beat... Like, Michael Jackson trying to be Thriller had to be, that's crazy. How you can't, you could do something else.
Yeah.
You could still have dope roles, but that.
Bad was great. It wasn't Thriller, but it was great.
It was great.
It was great.
You're never going to, I'm never going to be 22 again watching this movie. You're never going to be 30 making it or 27 making it.
Yeah.
I want that to live. I want to hold that work in high regard. And I don't want to do anything that taints that for me, so I won't watch. There's certain things at a certain point I'm just like, I've seen enough. Like even Kings of Comedy, I don't keep talking about it because it's like one of those things you can seal in a glass case and you go see it every once in a while. I didn't need to see it. I know how great he was. I know what that franchise was. I don't need to see it on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you. Like for example, Coming to America 2. Did you watch that?
I did.
Okay. I thought it was good. It wasn't the first one, but I thought it was good. And for example, the sexual chocolate at the end doing We Are Family, I rewatched that probably about 30, 40 times because I thought that was just great the way they put that together, and it had great moments in it. Beverly Hills Cop 4 did not have any great moments in it.
That's why, and when I tell you that, that's why I'll never do it again. I'll watch that and went, nah, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, and I mean, you said that Richard Pryor, you consider him the greatest ever?
I do.
Greatest stand-up comedian ever.
I think not only that, I think he's one of the greatest artists ever. I don't think just you can put him in just I think he's one of the greatest artist ever, performing artist ever.
I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of his acting career.
Yeah.
Thought
But
he
I'm
had his
talking
moments.
about in terms of...
He had his moments, but, there's also a lot of questionable roles. Like, I wasn't a fan of The Toy or Superman or, some of that stuff he did.
Because he did it.
For a check.
I think because he did it, I thought it was great. I hold to this. He is one of the greatest artists who ever lived in terms of moving the needle, in terms of doing things that no one had ever seen before, in terms of inspiring a whole legion of other. You can't be a comic now without him, his finger. I think that's the test of an artist. I think you find very few people in any kind of endeavor that had that kind of impact.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly say you probably wouldn't have had an Eddie Murphy without Richard Pryor because he definitely fashioned himself in the style of a Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor set the bar, right. And everyone else pretty much rose to it.
But look at even the white comics, even the Jewish comics, even the people from all over the world. That one thing that what do they call it? When they have they cooking and it's the germ. What is it? It's where they make sourdough out of. They keep
yeast.
It's the yeast, but it's a thing that it comes from. I forgot what it is. But he is that. He is that thing that everything comes from. No one, you can't look at comedy for the last 40 years and see a comic working today that wasn't affected in some way by Richard Pryor. I think you could arguably see musicians that weren't affected by certain musicians or actors that weren't, but you can't pick a comic that exists and has in the last 40 years that in some way hasn't been influenced or connected to Richard Pryor. And to me, that's the testament of how great an artist is.
Well, you said, I love Tiffany Haddish. I do not like when she seems anxious. I do not like that she lets the way she perceives the way other people feel about her affect the way she moves. Be who you are.
Yeah.
Explain that.
She'll go somewhere, right? And the funny thing is, she'll do shit that's just silly, and people get mad at it. Like, I'm going over to Gaza to see what's happening. I'm going to Africa to look at a grocery store.
Yeah, right.
It's stuff that she has the wherewithal, the means, and the curiosity to do. And then there's always this upheaval. And the only reason there's upheaval is because they feel it has purchase. They feel like it lands, right? Like, if it didn't land, they wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember she was on stage and she told this joke and everybody got mad, about, kids protested a war. And I'm like, at a certain point, the things people think of you can't be none of your business. But if every time you say something, there is a backlash, like she can't do anything, well, without backlash, I'm like, what the fuck how does somebody get that mad about somebody living their life? But the reason that happens is because they feel it scored somewhere, it lands. It must, or we wouldn't keep doing it.
So she keeps doing it. So
I'm talking about society wouldn't keep having the reaction it does, or the internet, or the whole. I don't know what, but whenever there is a thing called a backlash, and that must mean they're reacting to something, and that it has landed somewhere.
Yeah. It's not always a bad thing, though. They say all publicity is good publicity.
I think that is true, but I think it depends on how it impacts you. If it takes a little bit from you, like when she's saying she trusted people, like she'll say like I trusted people, and I'm not. There'll be these kind of revelations she has, which means that something happened she didn't want to, right? And to me, I think there is a thing, and this is just me, I can't say who it is for anybody else. I think she's immensely talented and very fortunate. And I think sometimes there is a survivor's remorse component associated with things where people can't understand why it was them. And you'll hear people bring her name up all the time as if why did she get this and they didn't, in those kinds of conversations. And I think that can land on some people. I think she's immensely talented. I think she's where she's supposed to be. I want her to have all the things she knows she could, and I want her to stop. I would like for people to not. You obviously can't stop people from saying what they say. I hope that one day she finds a way to not give it a place to live.
Yeah, I mean, I remember she was at the grocery store was it Nigeria?
Somewhere in Africa.
Yeah, somewhere in Africa. And she was like, oh, look, it's like a real grocery store. They got this, they got that. And everyone's like, oh, how dare you say that? Do you think we all live in huts and everything else like that? But I think she was purposely doing that because she's a comedian.
Exactly. Now,
she's trying to push buttons on people.
You take me and put me in that same situation. They don't do that because I don't give a fuck what you said, right? Like, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean,
but I saw that whole grocery store thing. So she's never supposed to try to do anything ironic or funny.
Yeah.
Or I think that the only reason that happens is because people know that some kind of way it registers. And if it doesn't, it's like if you know what'll happen, it's a phenomenon, I'm sure it happens to you. Somebody will say something to you on social media. Mm-hmm. And then they never expect you to answer back.
Yeah.
But when you do, then they got life and they're going to keep going back and forth.
Yeah. Happened to me recently.
Like, you think it's just, so you're giving something. It
happened to me recently.
So
yeah.
I think it's that kind of energy.
Sometimes you have to, be an adult and say, something, I was wrong for that. I apologize. Sometimes you don't apologize because you stand behind what you do. But if you continue to work, people will go on to something else.
Right.
I remember my man Gilbert Arenas. He made the comments about when South Sudan, lost to Team USA by 1 point. He went off. He said, man, you almost lost to the air up there. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
He's like, like for example, South Sudan, I remember they interviewed some of the guys. The whole country does not have a single indoor basketball court.
Dang, yeah, of course. But that doesn't mean they're not athletically inclined or gifted.
Well, yeah, but being athletically inclined and gifted, playing against LeBron, Curry, KD, and so forth, you expect a bigger gap between the numbers.
Man, I'm going to tell you something. Let me tell you something. They're hungry and they're talented. I mean, they're athletically inclined. So, and if you catch somebody the right way, you can win. I think it's a misnomer to believe your reputation don't play the game. You do. Your reputation don't fight the fight. You do. What you did last time didn't. The only thing that counts is this moment right now with these people, this opponent. And I think it's the arrogance of us here to believe that your expertise, your athleticism, your prowess should win the game for you. You don't. You still got to play.
Yeah, but none of these guys were in the NBA. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're talking about the best NBA players essentially in the world, all playing on one team. Yeah. The score should not have been that close.
I remember when
and I understand Gilbert probably didn't come out right because he was trying to be funny and silly and kind of bash Africans at the same time. I get why people got mad at him, but he had a valid point that it should not have been a 1 point game. It should not have been a 1 point game. I can understand if a bunch of South Sudan people who are already playing on NBA teams came back and started doing their thing. None of these guys were NBA players. None of them, not a single one. Yeah. So the score should not have been this close. I think Gilbert, being at one point one of the top NBA players, period. Agent Zero has a right to say this over the rest of us who are just, watching it on TV.
Hey, man, I think that sometimes, hey, man, you could, I just think you're forgetting that men who are athletic and crime, men, rise up to the challenge. Well, David had to fight Goliath. There are those things that happen where the moment you can have something internal inside you that pushes you past your natural confines, your limitations, and you can win. I think as an athlete, it says a lot about someone who believes that his setting, his surrounding, should have more of an impact than they do. If you should win, just because you should win doesn't mean that your opponent thinks that.
Well, ultimately,
Buster Douglas shouldn't have beat Mike Tyson. He did.
That's a little different. Both
How?
of them were professional boxers.
These were all athletes, though.
They were not playing. There was no indoor courts.
They were all men.
They were all men. I understand they're tall and strong. If this was an arm wrestling competition, I can see how they would come close or even win.
Let me tell you something. That laissez-faire attitude that Gilbert is, and his thing, they probably thought what he thought.
Yeah, until the scores started getting real close.
They thought, and I watched that game, and I rooted for him. I did.
You wanted LeBron to lose.
I didn't want LeBron to lose, but I rooted for man.
Everyone roots for the underdog. I get it.
Yes,
I get it. I get it.
I was like, I hope these motherfuckers, because two things: they're men, and you were cocky and confident.
Yeah.
And they caught you flat-footed.
Oh look,
almost had the biggest. Can you imagine what would have happened?
The biggest upset. Yeah. That would have been the biggest upset in sports history. That would have been bigger than like Buster Douglas beating Mike Tyson. Yeah, if they would have won, oh my God,
they scared the shit out of me. They scared the shit out of me. But they're men in the athletic arena who know that they're, it's some people that my son, he was he fought for a while, right? He was a UFC fighter.
Okay.
And he won.
Wait. Your son, who has Asperger's, was actually a UFC fighter.
Yes, he fought like 4 times, right?
In the UFC?
Well, he fought in Thailand. It was a kickbox, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
So he fought. And I remember he came on one time, and he won all 4 fights. And I said, I didn't want him to do it anyway. I'm like, you already got this thing going on. You can't lose no more brain cells. We need to keep
Only you can say these jokes.
Yeah, you get kicked in the head one time. We're going to take care of you forever. But he came home and he said he didn't want to do it anymore. And I said, why? He said, because after the fight, he said the guy wouldn't go down. I beat him up. He never, he didn't hurt me at all. But his wife picks him up in a beat up car. He's all bandaged, bloody, gets in the car, and they drive off. And he went, you know what? This dude is doing this because he has to do it, right? He said, I'm going home. My daddy loves me. I'm going home. You know what I mean? That's what South Sudan, these motherfuckers, can you imagine the pride they would have had if they won? If they won.
Oh, they named the country after them. It wouldn't be South Sudan anymore. It'd be whatever their names are.
Exactly. And sometimes that's enough for people. And it would have been great if they won, to me.
Well, ultimately, U.S. basketball won the Olympics, won Olympic gold, which surprised nobody. A lot of people say that the dream team with Jordan was much better than this team.
But the competition Jordan faced, just like, and we're going to have these arguments.
Yeah.
I think the competition that Jordan faced in his travels through the championship were not as hard as the championships that they faced in the West. I mean, you got to go through San Antonio. You got to go through San Antonio all the time. You had the West was something different, but you had Charlotte and fucking the Bullets and the Nets and but the level of, if you took the 10 top NBA players, 5 of them, 6 of them weren't born here.
Wait,
right now? Right now. 5, 6 of them ain't born here. Jokic, Doncic, Embiid.
Yeah, you got a point.
They ain't here.
Luka, Giannis.
None of them from here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, you're right. Because I'm still thinking LeBron, Curry, but yeah, no. Time
and
has gone on.
All them people was all them people from a country that we just beat. They were all those people who wanted a chance to get and play the Giant.
Yeah. Did you see some of the breakdancing?
That was the worst shit ever.
It was the worst shit ever. And you got to understand, like with me, breakdancing in 4th, 5th grade was my introduction to hip hop.
Right.
This was my first love. Before the music, before DJing, which became my career at one point, before producing or whatever else I did, it was breakdancing.
Right.
And seeing
It was fucking horrible.
Some of these people.
It was so bad, they went, we ain't never seen this.
That is not break. I don't know what the hell that is.
Man, Derek, my security guy, man, he must have watched it for 5 hours straight. I'm like, hey, motherfucker, I gotta go I don't want to hear this. He must have watched it for 5 hours straight. And it was all over the internet. She was so shitty, she got an Olympic event canceled.
Right, because they're not doing it in 2028.
They're like, we ain't doing this shit again.
Yeah. Which is too bad, because breakdancing, when done right, is phenomenal.
Yeah,
and in fact, like I remember I was in, where was I, Denmark? I was on tour, a European DJ tour, and there was a breakdancing competition hosted by Africa Bambaataa, and the Koreans were dominating.
Yeah.
The Koreans, the Japanese were running that shit, and they were great. Like they really held the torch for that art form. And then you see this bullshit at the Olympics, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? Because I expected a lot. I expected a lot.
It was so shitty, they went, mark this off. This went the way of badminton. We ain't doing this shit no more.
Diddy.
Yeah.
Is now under federal investigation. Yeah. And all types of wild shit has come out. There's a former porn star that's suing him, saying that he made her boyfriend give him head. 50's working on a Diddy documentary.
He made her what?
Oh, you didn't hear about this one?
No.
A female porn star is suing Diddy, saying that he forced her boyfriend to give him head.
Why is he not suing Diddy?
Yeah, I know, right?
Is his mouth full? Like what the... Why is he not suing Diddy? What the fuck are you? First off, I have no doubt that some of these things, as alleged, are true.
Well, we saw the video, right? Because since last time,
Yes.
the Intercontinental Cassie video came out.
Right.
Which anyone that was on Diddy's side and was saying this is a money grab, when they saw that, they said, never mind. Never mind.
I never liked him.
Have you met him before?
Never did. I
never met him?
I met him a bunch of times, but I never liked him.
Why?
I just didn't. It felt like when I see those things, I never was shocked about it. I never, like, it just, I could sense a thing. Like, I don't know what it was. But I will say that all those people who are now coming out and talk about these monstrous things he did are only saying it now when but they were fine with it when they were benefiting from it. Their silence benefited them from. If you are now telling us all these things you witnessed, then now you're not, you want to witness, you're an accomplice. And I think it's weird that a dude, like, you would think that a dude who'd been in that many videos would know when a new one was coming out. Like, you think.
Well, he bought that video for $50,000.
Yeah. Well, but you know how this works.
Yeah.
You know how this works. You knew, like, he been Puffy, Diddy, Puff Daddy. In my experience, any nigga changed his name that many times has done a lot of shit wrong. Where I'm from, we call it an alias. Is that you? No, not no more. That was me last album. But you know what happened to me? That was the last. Everybody in the 90s had been the product of the 70s and 80s and all that wild shit that was going on then. So that was the last vestige of those people who just got to do it. But all those people went to all those parties are now having lawyers explain and what they saw and why they were there. Like, it just wasn't my thing. It just wasn't where I wanted to be. But I'm not shocked about the allegations at all.
Well, yeah, I interviewed Roger Bonds, who was the head of his security for 10 years. And he did witness multiple situations with, when he beat Cassie, which he had to break them up and, kind of put her, in a different place and so forth, as well as witnessing a lot of other, the whole Kim Porter, the fight on the boat where he broke her nose. Roger Bonds was there when they landed and, said that Diddy flew in a plastic surgeon to fix her nose. There was a situation with his personal chef, and I heard some of the audio of this, of her explaining how he just basically threw her out of the house like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air because he got mad at her. Beat his assistant, beat one of Cassie's friends, and Cassie didn't support her friend, and that's why the friendship kind of fell apart. You saw it over and over and over again. I know people that have worked for him that have seen all types of inappropriate situations where he would walk by and like slap one of the female employees in the ass, and the employee was married. And everyone knew the husband, the husband and Diddy knew each other. Like, it was a bunch of crazy shit that really had been going on for a very long time.
I ain't trusted that nigga since he came up with Pizza Rock. Anybody that come up with peaches and vodka is up to the, like...
What does Peach the Rock have to do with it?
Who comes up with that? You got peaches and vodka? This nigga's up to something. I remember when, allegations of drug and... Like, I love pussy as much as the next man. I just ain't... I won't drug nobody to get it because I'm from the era when lies work. Remember you could lie and get...
lie away to some pussy.
Like, Rufy ain't got shit on I love you.
We got a future.
Just let me put the tip in. You know what?
I believe my wife for you.
Right.
Yeah, that works better than a roofie. Huh?
Right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. Nobody goes to jail for that.
Right.
People just say you ain't shit, but nobody goes to jail.
Although, I just read today that in India, a man who promises to marry a woman, for sex, can now face up to 10 years in prison. There's a new law that's passed.
Well, you know what? Remind me to stay the fuck out of India. Remind me to stay the fuck out of India. No, it was all. Have you ever noticed, like, everybody from that era is in trouble? Everybody.
Not everybody.
No, but I'm talking about, like, you're right, not everybody. That's hyperbolic. But all those dudes who are at every party and having the wild stuff is now lawyered up.
I mean, look, I remember I interviewed Brother Marquise from the 2 Live crew. And he said during their heyday, some of the dudes around them said to him that they felt they had a rape license. This came out of his mouth. And he passed away now, so, But he said it on my show, that back then, dudes just felt like, yeah, whatever, I could take the pussy. And,
man.
There's no cameras, there's no this. I mean, it was a very different era. It was wrong.
But it was all
a different era.
Type of man. Like, let me tell you something, man. And I'm not going to say who this is, but I was on the road one time. And these dudes, I guess they knocked these bras off. They fucked them or whatever. And the next day, the police, we're getting ready to leave, and the police contact me. And they're like, well, she said that these people, you guys were all together. I said, I wasn't with nobody. I went home. I went back to my room. Mm-hmm. And the only reason, did you know that when you use that card to go in your room, it's a timestamp?
Yeah.
I didn't know that until the police told me. Now I know.
Now
so
you know.
I time-stamped in. I was like, I ain't hanging with this. Because I knew they was wild dudes. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to go on. Time-stepped in. And by the time I time-stepped out, they saw me going to the hotels, time-stepped in. When I come back out, I obviously wasn't there. But I was like, I can't even go nowhere with you guys no more, y'all, But I think that there's something, even when I went to, we talked about Freaknik before. It was too wild. I was like, nah, it's too much for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you said that you can remain friends with men who commit crimes against women. Now, but for example, Boosie, who's a regular on my show,
right?
He said the opposite. He said he's seen his uncle get into it with women, be physically abusive, but that's still his uncle, and he still loves him. He said like, women like to take this high and mighty stance, but they're like, he's like, how many girls have girlfriends that are out there, scamming, ripping guys off, jumping from guy to guy, cheating or whatever, but that's still their bestie. You know what I'm saying? So his thing is like, friendship should surpass that.
What he did in sports makes him a motherfucking celebrity. Regardless, how many motherfucking skiers or anybody else who done killed their motherfucking child or been accused? We don't look at it from both ways. We don't look at that shit from both ways, bro. The world and social media got everybody fucked up how you should feel about your own people. When I left the last show, you got people DM me talking about, Boosie, you ain't shit because you'll sit right there and let your friend beat a woman and woo from, remember how?
Yeah, we talked about that, yeah.
How I am, bro, how I was raised, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you this, a lot of people might not like this. I wouldn't give a damn if I beat my bitch. I'm still standing up for my partner. If he beat his bitch, that's they shit. That's how we was raised in the ghetto. I'm not gonna sit up here and say that when I saw my uncle beat his bitch, that I didn't want to hang around him. We were cooking dope the same night.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a new day and a new day in time. But how I was raised, if you beat your bitch, that's your problem. It never made me say you're not my friend anymore. That's what I stand on. I always stand on wrong or wrong, right or right, you my friend. And I probably was raised a fucked up way. Let's keep it real. Everybody in the world need to start facing reality. If you got love for somebody, you care about all they got going, I don't give a fuck what goes down. I don't give a fuck what's going down. That's still gonna be my friend. How many friends you got who really your friend after they didn't fight? You done seen him go through 13 women fighting. But guess what? That's still my friend.
Yeah.
Women need to shut the fuck up too. Because women, it's the same thing. What you watching your girl cheat go from dick to dick. Got this nigga beefing with this nigga beef. Bitch scamming the lady at the mall, bitch scam, but all y'all scam.
But that's still your bestie.
But that's still your motherfucking bestie.
Yep. I can be your friend. I just can't be around you.
Okay.
There's certain...
Yeah.
Once you have daughters and granddaughters, man, it's a whole different thing in terms of what you'll allow. Like even my father's friends, man. When I was growing up, it was 3 things you had to do. You had to beat the street lights home. You beat the sun. You couldn't let the sun. You had to take care of your house, and you could never let no bullshit come to your house. That was it. That was all you had to do. But if you was a man who didn't take care of your woman and children, then they didn't fuck with you. They just didn't fuck with you. They didn't judge you. I mean, they would drink with you and hang out with you, but you weren't like in the circle with them. They were. So I kind of, maybe that was my ethos I adopted from him.
But see, keep in mind though, like, men are always vilified, but there's a lot of very abusive women out there.
They are. I know one. Yeah, I know.
I've dealt with them before myself.
Me too.
And
not in my life. I just seen it happen.
I've dealt with it in my life. And I've had to restrain women before from hitting me. But let these women tell it, I'm the bad guy, I'm the abuser. You know what I'm saying? And men will always be viewed as the bad guy, not knowing that they might have gotten punched 3-4 times in the face before they had to actually...
Listen, I know those situations, let me just be clear for me. There are things...
I remember I talked to my therapist about this. He said that roughly 20% of abusive relationships are the woman.
I have no doubt about that.
Now, the 80% are the men. I get it. It's the majority.
For me...
But 20% is still a big-ass number considering how many relationships are out there.
It's shit you can't do to people around me. You could do whatever you want to do. I'm not in your business. It's certain things you can't do to people around me. And if you do it around me, I'm going to say something. If you do it. I'm a grown fucking man. Why do you even think that? It says a lot about what people will do in front of you. Like, my mother and father raised me right. I just did wrong. I snuck and did it. But if you do that shit in front of me, you think I'm with it.
Yeah.
You do. That tells me how you think, what you think of me. If you do some shit that that you do some shit that's way out of pocket like that, you must think I'm with it. And it don't happen a lot because they know I'm not.
Yeah, I feel you.
You ain't finna do that to me. You can do whatever. I don't care. I'm not in everybody's business. But you do that shit around me, I'ma say something. Just like I think what those people were doing, everybody got a Diddy story now. You didn't say that shit when those people were getting brutalized, so fuck you now. It's simple.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I asked Roger Bonds why he stayed, he gave a relatively honest answer. He said, look, I was fresh out of jail. This was my only opportunity. I saw him firing people for less, so I stayed because I had kids to support. And, I also felt that me being there, I could protect Cassie a little bit better. But ultimately, he knew what was up. He knew what was up, and he stayed. And he watched it over and over again. Between Cassie, Kim Porter, whatever else, he stayed and he tolerated it because he needed the check. And I think that's the story for most people.
Because they know you'll allow it.
Yeah.
They know you will.
Yeah.
And the only reason that you're having this conversation now is because there's no benefit to you. Now your benefit is being able to cash in on the story, the shit you witnessed.
No, absolutely. I mean, his son, Roger's son, who was convicted for murder in Africa, and he went to Diddy for money, and Diddy said no. And then at that point, he said, okay, well, I'm just going to go sell my story. So it is what it is. There's no gray area about it. There's no more benefit from Diddy. And from Diddy's point of view, he's probably like, listen, I just can't keep paying everyone off to keep quiet. So y'all just run with it, whatever you're going to run with, and I'll have my legal team deal with it. And look, like, who said this? I think it was Ari Spears said it, that when it comes to the mega rich, they get away with everything except for murder. Most times.
Not even except for murder. You can get away with murder.
Even murder. Harvey Weinstein was a bit of an exception.
But look how many times it took him.
Oh, yeah. He's been doing it for decades.
Yeah, so I really do think, I don't want to countenance the, shit, and you're discerning, you're old enough now, you get the lay of the land. I'm not saying you can't be surprised you have all the answers, but you could tell what is what. Hey, nigga, this is out of pocket.
Yeah.
You're not doing this around me.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I'm not. And so, but the only reason anybody does anything is because they think they can do it around you.
True. Yeah, and usually when they get caught, it's because of them doing it over and over and over. People rarely get caught the first time. Usually get away with it.
Or the first 30 times. They'll get caught 50 times.
Yeah, but eventually, the more you do it, you increase your chances. And then there'll be a floodgate of people that'll come out.
Yeah,
I feel you. Yeah. Well, I remember you talked about Caitlyn Jenner celebrating OJ's death.
Yes.
You said, bitch, you killed somebody too.
She did.
Now, what I didn't know was the person that died was your neighbor?
Yes.
So that means he's my neighbor too.
Well, my next door neighbor.
No, yeah, I don't live next door to you, but I live down the street.
Yeah, but my next door neighbor
died.
Okay, so I remember.
Wow.
One night we came home. Me and my wife came home. Right, it was 2014, 15. We came home, and this old lady in a nightgown came out, said, knocked on the window. I'm like, what the fuck? She's like, somebody's in my house. Somebody's in my house, right next door to me. Mm-hmm. I take my pistol, I go with her to her house, right next door. And my wife the whole time was like, you better not, you don't. And I'm like, I can't let this lady be scared to death. But then I remember I'm a nigga in Calabasas. I'm like, wait a minute, I better not go in there.
With a gun.
Right. So I waited out front till the police came and they searched the joint. Turned out nobody was in there and she was all scared. I never saw her again. And the next time I saw her, because the lights would always be off, and I was like, what happened to that lady? One day I asked, she got killed. And I said, what happened? She got killed in an accident in Malibu. It was that Bruce Jenner guy. She sold real estate. Then, to top that all off, in October of that year, that was February, in October of that year, he became Woman of the Year. Caitlyn, I'm not even making it up. He became Caitlyn. Caitlyn became Woman of the Year, or October or November that year, Woman of the Year. And only a white woman who once was a white man could get rid of her dick and her criminal record at the same time.
Yeah, you said he was an ass when he was a man, and he's a bigger ass now that he has a coochie.
Yeah.
He's the worst kind of human being.
He is. And how dismissive of it. Needless to say, that if in the same time span, somebody had taken a life and the sheriffs in dubious circumstances had decided not to press charges, you wouldn't want to give that person a Woman of the Year award, like a noteworthy award. But that is the kind of allegiance they have to whatever mindset they want to forward. But I never forgot that. Now, he was always a dick. Even the shit that he says now lets you know he's a dick.
Right, about OJ.
But not even OJ, just his political vantage point. The things, like he got into it with somebody and they like about how they identify themselves, and all the girls were like, hey man, you better keep yourself, you should stay out of this. Caitlyn, you should stay out of this argument. But his political views are that of a white man, not of a transgender woman.
Mm. Is he pro-Trump?
Oh, very pro-Trump.
Really?
Very pro-Trump. Very.
Yeah, look, I've never met Caitlyn or Bruce.
They got a lot in common.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed Scott Disick recently. I mean, that's probably the closest I came to the Kardashian clan, the Jenner Kardashian clan. But yeah, I mean, it really, but ultimately he wasn't charged because it was an accident, right?
The sheriff didn't charge him under dubious circumstances. So whatever happened, I can't tell you what happened because I do know that if I had taken somebody's life, the last thing I would be doing is denigrating somebody else. I would understand that whether I did it on purpose or not, there's a grieving family member, and this probably has triggers them in some way, or I would just feel horrible about the fact. The one thing I would never mention is somebody taking a life, even if I didn't think it was the same circumstances. So I certainly would come out with this strident, good riddance kind of thing when somebody's saying that same thing about you right now.
Yeah, that's what he said, good riddance. And he did respond when people, compared it to the accident. I mean, when OJ was honored at the BET Awards, a lot of people were upset. I personally didn't care.
He wasn't honored. All they did was say he died. How's that an honor? They run a retrospective.
It is an honor. It is an honor to be mentioned at a major award ceremony that's televised.
They just said this dude.
Lots of people died that they did not mention.
And well, they weren't luminous. They weren't famous either. But whether people like to admit this now, he was found innocent.
No, I know, and that was my point. Was like, okay, I understand that this was a major athlete. He went to trial, was found not guilty of murder. And that's the reasoning.
That's it.
The other reasoning is, yeah, but most people felt he really did it. So there's a reason not to do it. Okay, there's the reasoning for those people too. Yeah. Me personally, I didn't give a shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I can see both sides of it. I personally think BT was trolling. They did it on purpose. They knew it would create an uproar and there'd be more like eyeballs on the award show, which ultimately I don't think these award shows keep growing in popularity. Right. The ESPYs didn't honor him. No. And he was an athlete. So if
the ESPYs didn't honor him because he was a disgrace to them. He came from a different people. I guarantee you that if the jury was comprised of people at the ESPYs, he might have had a different outcome. But because they were comprised of another demographic, he didn't. I think it's not crazy to say that somebody died. On my show, when I do birthdays, I do them for, or if they're deceased, I will mention them. Like I think Rush Limbaugh was a horrible motherfucker, but he's dead. And what good is it to denigrate somebody who's not here anymore? He's already run his race. It's already been. Yeah. It's already over.
Well, I remember I had Gary Owen on my show recently, and he talked about a major Hollywood executive that tried to have sex with him for a role.
Now, see, that's fucked up.
And you commented about this.
That's fucked up. Somebody tried to fuck Gary Owen and not me?
Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
And you said, I know I'm as sexy as Gary Owen.
I am as sexy as Gary Owen. I am sexy as him. Gary's so sexy. Gary, they took the S off his name. That was just Owen. But I heard him say that one time, and I was like, nobody ever tried to fuck me. Nobody.
Do you know who he's talking about?
Who?
I can't tell you on air, but I do know.
Does he try to fuck Gary?
Yeah.
No one's ever even done anything slightly inappropriate to me.
I know, it's disappointing, huh?
It is fucking disappointing.
Maybe have like a testicle hanging out next time.
I know I'm sexy to somebody.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Nobody ever went, hey, do you want this role?
I'll put it this way. I'm not, because I know who he's talking about, right? And when I tell you, when the cameras are off, you will not be shocked.
Yeah.
You will not be shocked.
No one ever did that to me.
Yeah?
Never.
Yeah, look, and to
I
Gary...
mean, we had a pedophile on our street, right?
Yeah?
He never said nothing to me.
You had a pedophile on your street?
That lived right next door to me.
Really?
Yes,
Oh, because of the whole...
everybody knew it.
Talking about Nicki Minaj's husband? Oh, no, he lives in
We
Hillville.
were kids. He would have been poor. And people would leave his house crying and with money in their hands. I'd be like, what? And he never once said nothing to me. Never. That's how unsexy I am.
Yeah.
Gary Owens get cast in couch and I don't.
Yeah, and to be fair, though, Gary said that he still got the role. He still got the role. But he said the guy was like, oh, how much do you make? He goes, about $50,000. He goes, I can have you make $1 million. Matter of fact, that role you're going for, hold on. Calls his assistant in, tell so-and-so that he doesn't have the role. We're going to give it to Gary instead. There you go. The role's yours. And he said, listen, to be fair, there's nothing wrong with hitting on somebody. Right? He refused.
You're going to just dig the knife in. You're digging the knife in more. Yeah, there is nothing wrong with hitting somebody, but nobody does it to me.
Yeah, no, listen, to hit on somebody, gay or straight, is not illegal. Now, if you say no and you continuously try to really harass the person, that's sexual harassment. But to say, hey, listen, I want to fuck you, no, I'm not interested, okay, cool, next subject.
Shit. I'm going to call you if it ever happens. Like, guess what? Now I'm too old for it now. No.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
I'm past my sell-by date.
Yeah, no, listen.
Nobody likes old dudes like that.
He got the role anyways.
Yeah.
And when I tell you who it is, it will not be a shock. Well, Eminem just dropped a new album.
Uh-huh.
And I remember they interviewed Dr. Dre. And he said, I think he's the best MC ever, point blank, period. Of course, there's going to be arguments about that because he's a white guy, but I don't think anyone that's rapping can touch Eminem on the microphone. Now, the argument's going to be, well, of course he would say that because that's his artist and he's made millions of dollars off of him. But if you really take a step back, Dre has had Tupac, Kendrick Lamar, 50 Cent, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, and all these other artists he's worked with that he's made millions of dollars off of. I don't think Dre is totally motivated by money when answering a question like this.
I would imagine he's not.
I think he truly believes that.
Yes. I don't believe that, but I can see how he does.
So you don't believe Eminem's the greatest rapper
I think he's
ever?
one of the greatest MCs ever.
Okay. Who do you think is the greatest?
To me, my favorite rapper, Ice Cube was my favorite rapper.
Ice Cube's awesome. I still want an Ice Cube interview one of these days.
I think Nas is one of the best I've ever seen.
Yep, he's up there.
Why You Real Spill, Kendrick Lamar is one of the best I've ever seen. Jay-Z is one of the best I've ever seen. I think Andre 3000 is one of the best I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I think KRS, it depends on, but I think there is no argument from me. Like people say Jordan all day long, I'm gonna say Kobe every time. 10 toes down, I'm gonna say it every time. So I don't have a dog in this race, but I do think that anybody who says that man's not talented because he's white is ridiculous. He's as good as I've ever seen. But I think, for me, I've never seen what Kendrick just did. I've never seen it before. I've never seen anybody, a rapper, take a moment and make it a movement and a fucking anthem.
Yeah, I mean, just recently, Not Like Us surpassed Hit 'Em Up as the most streamed diss song ever. Now, to be fair, Hit 'Em Up came out in 96.
Right.
Decades before the streaming era. So obviously you do not have that first
That's
week
true.
jump.
That's
so if they were both to drop on the same day, I don't think Kendrick would have that title. But still, it shows how monumental that song is.
And to do it at that moment. And I thought all the shit he was doing up to that, like he was doing some dope shit up to that. Like it was, all of it was dope. But I never saw a rapper step into a moment like that. Like it was a moment. It to me, nigga, I saw niggas that I fuck with that I used to know, like growing up, crip walking, and them niggas never crip walk. I'm like, it really, you could not feel good about being from here seeing that. And it's just really, I've just never seen anybody maximize a moment and be so succinct. He, to me, became a luminary. I think he was already going to be on the Mount Rushmore no matter what. Mm-hmm. But that, like Muhammad Ali was a great fighter, but the moment made him even better. It amplified what was innate in him already. I think that moment, you can call it trite or whatever, that amplified him to me.
Do you think that Kendrick versus Drake was the greatest rap battle of all time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think because it kept going so long.
Yeah, a lot of songs. Yeah, because people like to say Pac and Biggie, but really it was just hit 'em up and no real response from Biggie. Yeah. It was a couple sneak disses here and there, but really...
I mean, I love No Vaseline.
No Vaseline was great, but there was really no response from NWA.
And nobody can keep going back and forth. Like, Kendrick was ready in 15 minutes. Like, it was shit like that.
Yeah. No, I feel you. The one thing, though, that I didn't like about this battle was that a lot of the biggest moments were based on lies.
Yeah, but
you see what I'm saying?
But I think that's, you could call it lies or artistic.
And I'm saying it on both sides.
Or we can call
both
it
sides.
Artistic interpretation.
Okay. I don't think Drake is a pedophile.
No.
I don't think that one of Kendrick's kids is not his own.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And these
but
are
I don't think in the Bible that Jonah lived in a whale either. Like, I don't.
Right. No, I get it. You want to, you want to make it bigger than life. But like, if it was different people, there'd be lawsuits. You see what I'm saying? Like, if Drake was petty, he could sue Kendrick for like $100 million and probably win. To be accused of being a pedophile?
Well, you have to show that it did damage to you. You have to show.
Look at Drake's streams right now.
Yeah, but
they're pretty damaged. Drake.
You think? Here's what I noticed about this whole thing is he didn't like him. Man. He didn't like him, man. He didn't. Whatever. Like you don't have that many rounds in the chamber. Like he was saving. It's almost like somebody stockpiling weapons, like one of these, those people that they build those bunkers and something happened. Mm-hmm. Like he was ready and wanted it. And it just seemed unfair after a while. Like it was like a lion playing with his food after a while. I was like, come on now, stop.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always felt that Drake was the better songwriter, but Kendrick was the more creative one. Yeah. That's how I've always looked at it. I think Drake's songs, the entirety of the songs, are better club songs. They're more danceable, sing-along, whatever else. But the creativity that Kendrick has, Drake has never had. He's more traditional. Kendrick is more like, I'm going to give you something you've never heard before. Which, to me, and I've always said this, I said that if Drake and Kendrick drop on the same day, most real hip-hop fans will listen to the Kendrick album first.
Right.
And then Drake second. Now, you could argue
it's almost like,
but you saw what just happened.
It's almost like you could say, commercially, Bill Cosby was more successful than Richard Pryor. Mm-hmm. But you're never going to say that Bill Cosby was a better comic than Richard Pryor. You could say that Jay Leno was more successful than David Letterman. But you're never going to say. So, it depends on where you, like what you count as. There's a commercial and an affect and an affability and an accessibility thing to something. And there's something when you get a chance to see something special. And I think I've never seen Kendrick. I've danced to a lot. I don't even dance, but I've listened to a lot of Drake's music, and it's dope. But when Kendrick does something, it makes you go, ooh, goddamn. If you hear it, you feel it somewhere. It's like hitting your funny bone or something. You feel it somewhere in a way I don't know that Drake ever has. I don't think he's ever resonated in people that way.
Yeah, I mean, look, Not Like Us clearly was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like, everybody is saying it. People
Somebody
are doing
said this,
it
they said this on Joe Budden's podcast. When HBCUs start playing it at fucking homecomings and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's imbued in our psyche.
Yeah. No.
It's in our psyche.
I mean, I think that Family Matters was a better song sonically, but definitely did not have the impact. Mm-hmm. Definitely did not have. I would never, ever, ever, ever say that. I mean, it is what it is.
I tell you what, I wouldn't have wanted to be on the other end of that.
No. I don't think anyone does. No, man, he's still doing victory laps over that. And then when he drops an album, forget about it. If there's a couple of mentions of Drake throughout that, everyone's gonna go crazy.
Man,
again.
everybody, here's what happened. You remember with this? Oh, Drake gonna just drop an album, hit it to put a new banger out, it'll be all over. Like, nope.
I've been asked this question recently. Name the 3 most soulful white male singers of all time.
I liked soulful to me, like soulful,
Yes.
like, but I'm not talking about just sing soul music or.
Yeah, just soulful. Can I give you my list first?
Nah, you gonna say John B, right?
No.
Who you gonna say?
In order. Elton John.
Yeah.
Daryl Hall.
Yep, I'd say Hall knows.
George Michael.
Not George Michael.
No? I love George Michael.
You know,
Rest in
Elton
peace.
John, I interviewed him at about 12 years ago at the Oscars. And he talked about how, maybe 15 years ago. No, it was like 12. And he talked about how black radio were the first people to get him.
Yeah, exactly. Not surprised.
Black radio.
Not surprised.
But like they got him right away. And I would say Hall and Oates. And I would say the Doobie Brothers.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. A lot of people like to see Bobby Caldwell, but I feel like Bobby Caldwell just had one song.
Yeah.
Do for Love.
And I didn't know Bobby Caldwell was white till about 3 years ago.
I didn't know Bobby Caldwell was white until he died.
Yeah, me neither. He died.
I thought that was a black guy singing that song all these years.
Yeah.
Because it was just one song.
Yeah. But you know, who was it? David Bowie. He did some shit too that niggas fucked with. He did. That's the thing. In radio, the funny thing about it is, if you dope to black people, black radio will play you.
Mm.
But if black people who are dope don't get played on white radio.
Mm.
Like Justin Timberlake gonna get played on ours because we think he's dope. You know, who's the kid? Ed Sheeran gonna get played on you because we think he's dope. But if we think somebody dope, we'll play him. They won't. It's very segmented that way. But the Doobie Brothers, fucking Hall and Oates, and I think you're right about Elton John.
Yeah, I remember me and Aries had a whole argument about Elton John. He was like, black people don't mess with Elton John.
Shit,
I
he's
said,
a
come on,
lying ass.
man. Come on. Elton
He's a
John has
lying ass.
anthems that everybody loves. It surpasses. Rocket Man? Who doesn't love Rocket Man?
Yeah.
I will give you my list.
All right.
Number 1, Elton John.
You're insane.
Number 2,
Nothing soulful about Elton John.
you don't think he's soulful.
Nah.
I think he's soulful.
Very pop-like.
Definitely pop, but I feel
And
like
could sing his ass off.
sing his ass off.
But I don't know no black people that rocked Elton John.
Really?
No.
Really?
Really, nigga?
He has anthems.
Okay, that don't mean niggas follow him.
Okay. You know, and I feel like because he doesn't do traditionally black music,
Yeah.
they won't put him in that category.
No.
Whereas, you know, like George Michael has songs with Mary J. Blige, so they put him in there. But I'm saying Elton John, I feel, was like one of the greatest singers ever.
I think
Period.
so too. I think so too. I think that, yeah, Elton John ought to put in. George Michael's, I remember chicks, black women, loved him. Loved
being gay.
him. Loved him. You know you gay when you come from a group called Wham. Come on, stop it. Like, what do you think that? What do you think that means? But that's how dope. That's how dope people are. Like I like John B. I thought he was dope. I like Robin Thicke. I thought he was
Yeah,
dope.
no, but I didn't mention those guys.
No.
Because I feel
But they're
like,
younger. They're like, yeah.
Well, not even because they're younger, because I feel like, and I've interviewed John B., right? I like Robin Thicke, but I think that they would even say that they can't hold a candle to Elton John.
Yeah. No,
I think they would admit that.
This is a true story. So I used to go to Barney's, right? And I was a bad. Barney's loved me. Loved me. I fucked with Barney's. I came in one time, they left all the shit I had, and all of the salespeople ran because Sir Elton John was in there.
Sir Elton John.
Sir Elton John.
Yes.
Like, you carry this shit. They left me, like, you know how you go your own self-service checkouts, they left my shit right there. When I was like, what the fuck?
Elton John, man.
Sir Elton John was
It's
here.
Elton John, and I think that because he's viewed as doing pop music, they don't
Michael
put
Jackson was
him.
pop.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Michael Jackson did pop
Yeah,
music as
yeah,
well. He's the king of pop.
yeah.
You know, everyone loved Michael,
Yeah.
but yeah, Elton John, I don't feel gets his props from certain people.
But you know what's funny? It was like, remember when, you're young, but when John Lennon got shot, radio, all platforms had him on the side. Everyone. Country, R&B, every platform. All of radio shut down.
Yeah.
I think Michael Jackson would have been that same way had it not been all of the accusations and all of the controversy. It'd have been the same because there are people just And Elton John would be that way when he ever passed. Because that's if you fuck with music, and you must if you're in radio right now. If you fuck with music, it's no way you don't know him.
Yeah, but John Lennon also died kind of at the height of his career.
Yeah, but
so his stuff was already being played on the radio at the time. There hasn't been a new Michael Jackson song in probably like 20 years.
No, but I'm talking about the way that...
Same thing with Prince.
The way that Prince too.
Yeah.
The way that the medium revered them.
Fair enough.
They crossed all kind of demographics. Because radio's very segregated. And they went, you know what, this is such a dope dude.
Well,
David Bowie was kind of like that too for a while.
Who?
David Bowie.
David Bowie, yeah, he was dope as well. Yeah. Well, Fulio was killed recently.
Yeah.
You know about this story.
I did.
On his 26th birthday.
I saw.
I've interviewed him before. And in my interview, I was telling him that he should work out these beefs, that it's going to end badly. He should probably move away. And he acknowledged it. He understands, and he, talked about his beef with Young and Ace and said that, they'll probably work it out at some point. Not to say that Young and Ace had anything to do with this, because I don't think he did, but ultimately 4 suspects were arrested. One of them, threatened to kill himself at the time, that he was apprehended and so forth. There was a girl that was there at his birthday party. This happened on his 26th birthday party. She went and told other guys where he was, and he ended up getting killed. Some new information came out that one of the murder suspects, his brother was killed by someone affiliated with Fulio, and Fulio even made songs dissing his brother, and I think he even pissed on his brother's grave in one of his music videos. And it's just so messy and ugly. And me and Fulio, we were supposed to do a second interview, and we talked. He couldn't make it, but he was very polite. And, I really liked the guy and felt that he had a future. And at 26, he had no kids. It's just such a sad, sad story that we keep hearing over and over again.
There's a reason. There's a reason there's a reason that that's the most dangerous time for a black man in the country between 15 and 30. There's a reason that happens, and I think part of it is because you have no sense of anything past you, and nobody around. Like, you talk to people that did crazy shit and they're in jail now, and they look at that moment, they get a chance to look at that snapshot, and they would have reacted so differently. But youth is the impetuousness of youth. People think they're immortal and they're invulnerable and nothing can happen to them.
Yeah.
And it just become like, look at Tupac and Biggie died. I lament that so many people, don't see past what's right now. And it's cost so many young black men their lives. And I think, I don't know what you're getting that mad at somebody about, because you just, I don't know what it is, but I think it's the impetuousness of youth. And it plays out over and over again. And it is one of the most sad things that I think I see.
Yeah. I remember when Fulio got killed, I went through my list of interviews and found 19 people that died violently.
I bet.
After I interviewed them.
I bet. Wait a minute. Hang on. Hang on.
Interview canceled. Yeah.
Well, I've done 19 interviews with you.
Yeah, so you could. All of them are black men.
Right.
All of them were shot, except for Draco the Ruler, who was stabbed.
In the neck, right?
I think so, yeah.
At a concert.
Backstage at a show. Most of them, half of them are about in their 20s, another half are their 30s. Only one of them was 45. Jimmy Wapo, 21. Dobie, 22. Jay the Youngin, 24. BTB Savage, 26. FPG Duck, 26. Fulio, 26. Mo 3, 28. Draco the Ruler, 28. Takeoff, 28. Chinks Drugs, 31. E-Dave, 632. Big Low, 33. Slim, 400. 33. Nipsey Hussle, 33. Young Greatness, 34. Snooty Wild, 36. Young Dolph, 36. The Jacker, 37. Gonzo, 45.
Yeah.
All of them died violently, usually in their cities, in their home cities. And then, you have a suicide. Little Loaded died at 20. There's drug overdoses. Coolio, 59. Gangster Boo, 43. Aaron Carter, 34. Mac Miller, 26. What's interesting is half the people from drug overdoses were white. But all the people from violent murders were black.
Yeah.
And you can't just say this is coincidence.
No. I think that there's a reason that that's the most dangerous time in our lives. I think that there's a reason that your life expectancy, I think that's why insurance is high. I think that that's why, I think it is, they say that it is the most dangerous time in your life. And I think it's because there's so little continuum of experiences for life and so little respect for it. Yeah. And it's a culture of that shit. And it's sad. It really is. Where it's glorified. Like I saw everybody proud to, have ops and to say slick shit with somebody like that. It's like it's like no humanity. And that is something that it's hard to, as a human being, as a part of the human community, you can't reconcile that level of apathy and that level of callousness.
Yeah, 2 men were just convicted on all charges in P&B Rock's murder.
Yeah, I saw.
And it was a father and a son.
I saw that.
The father sent the son to go rob P&B Rock, which turned into a murder. It's insane. Like, what type of father would go send their son to go do a crime?
Exactly.
The fuck kind of dad are you?
Yeah, exactly. When your family crest is your prison number. That's crazy. I don't
pretty much.
I don't
pretty much, man. And it's whole family just done with.
Yeah.
And P&B Rock had a future. He had a child. He had fans.
Bright dude.
Yeah. It was fucked up.
Like Pop Smoke. I guess it's like all these kids. I don't get it.
Yeah. Pop Smoke, one of the killers ended up doing an interview on No Jump.
I saw.
He looked seriously intoxicated during the whole interview. And a lot of people gave Adam a hard time over doing this interview.
Right.
But I understand why he did it, because ultimately this is documenting an important part of history. I've interviewed killers as well. Sammy the Bull killed 19 people. I'm sure the victims of the families probably hate me as much as people hate Adam over doing this interview who are Pop Smoke fans. I get it. But the kid was probably like 16 when it happened.
He looked like a kid even then.
Even then.
Now. Even now,
Even now. He looks like a child. And I remember talking to MC8, and we were talking about how MC8 during that age range would go along with his homies on robberies and whatever else, and it could have ended up like that.
Yeah. It ain't really hard for something bad to go wrong.
It's not crazy when you think about what happened. It's kind of like, this is what happened.
It ain't that hard for something to go wrong.
Yeah, like how many friends have you lost that you grew up with?
When I grew up, from the time I was 8 to the time I moved out of my neighborhood, the time I was 30, the time I was 8 to the time I was 30, I'd say 15.
15 people. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yep. I'd say 15.
That's crazy. But then here I am reading a list of 19 people that I interacted with. The numbers are relatively close.
Yeah. And you're talking about 30, 40 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's a phenomenon that keeps repeating itself. And I think you could do it here. You could do it in any city in the country. Urban cities in the country. And I think it's a mentality and a mindset that is pervasive in all those kind of environments.
Do you think that there's anything that could be done intrinsically in the way that we run our country?
I do.
That will change
I do.
this from happening?
Yes, I do.
And then what is that?
I think you can't tell people to stop a thing without giving them a thing. I think if you look at the places where violence is the highest, it's the place where opportunity is the least pervasive. And I think it's really if you took a rose and a weed, they're all trying to do the same thing. They're trying to survive, and they're fighting for resources. I think people weren't intended to live. Like, people always go, well, black people are like crabs in the bucket. Well, the problem with that scenario is crabs don't belong in a bucket.
They belong in the ocean.
They don't belong in this environment. They don't belong in this hopeless, violent, dirty, gritty, environmentally compromised environment. You know, they did this thing, and when I wrote my books, I talked about, they noticed that crime dropped precipitously, and it wasn't turning on laws and more policing, cleaning up the environment, taking the lead out of paint, taking the lead out of pipes, taking the lead out of gas, lowered the crime rate.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
You know what else lowered the crime rate? The passing of abortion.
You think that lowers the crime rate? The passing?
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell went into this in his book, The Outliers, where he basically broke down. Remember the book? So basically, what he said was, once they passed legal abortion nationally, you looked at 15 to 20 years down the line, and the crime rates plummeted because suddenly you took out all these kids that are being born under horrible circumstances.
Two people that didn't want them.
Two people that didn't want them.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're right. I remember hearing that.
Suddenly you have a kid who is in this single-family environment, who's in an environment with a teenage mom, in a very poor environment, you know, abusive home where you don't really want to have a kid with this person or whatever else. You just take them out of the equation. And, you know, I don't think it's rocket science to say that a lot of kids in that environment will probably grow up to be criminals because they're growing up in horrible environments.
It is.
Right?
It is not. It would be different than the pathway that's generally laid out. Yeah. You know, what's so funny? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was watching something today, and they're like 45,000 children up for adoption in California. 45,000. Or some huge number. And people are talking about they love families. Well, go get some of those kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the argument.
We want children, but we only want them to say we had them. We don't want to take care of them. We want to educate them. We want to make sure. Like, I remember Donald Trump was talking about, they're aborting babies after they're born. That's not a post-birth abortion. That is a school shooting is what the fuck that is. I don't know what you...
I mean, it's similar to the argument of, I remember I saw a documentary about this, how they always say that bad neighborhoods have bad schools.
Right.
But you could also argue that bad schools create bad neighborhoods. You have a bad school with horrible teachers, with a 50% dropout rate. What's happening with the kids that are dropping out of school?
Exactly.
They're not starting their own businesses. They're hanging out, doing nothing, getting into trouble.
Right.
And then that creates more crime and brings down the whole neighborhood. And the next year, another 50% of, freshmen and sophomores are getting dumped into this neighborhood without anything to do.
I went to my old neighborhood, went during COVID, and Avalon Gardens, I gave out masks. Do you know Avalon Gardens looked the same way 50 years later as it did when I went there? And it all is metal bars and gates. It all looks it looks right now like a prison school. It looks like a prison yard. And they look that way. And I think that it's no reason, it's no secret that you become convinced of an environment, you get comfortable with it, and it becomes the perpetuation of all you know. Yeah. So I think that you have something to that. I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I've always told people, like, if you really want to be successful, go and get a successful friend and hang out with them.
Yeah.
I grew up lower middle class. My parents always barely scraped by, but I had rich friends in junior high and high school, and I got to go to their mansions and hang out and see what it was like. And I liked it.
Right.
And I said, one day I'm going to do this. And these days I've done it. But I had to see it. I had to experience it. I had to see what it was like to have a vacation house. My friend Mark Avanesian had a vacation house in Lake Tahoe.
Right.
It was so dope. You know, my friend Jim Wong had a mansion in Hillsborough. And he had a Benz in high school. I'm like, okay, when I have kids one day, I want to give him a Benz. And he had Rolexes. I want a Rolex one day. Like, I've achieved all this over the years, but I had to see it and touch it.
It's aspirational.
Yeah, because it's one thing to see it on the internet and so forth. It doesn't feel real. But when you actually are in there and seeing it and experiencing it, like, yo, it's cool to have your friends that are bummy, but have a few friends that are not. And see how it changes your life.
The biggest influence on a child's life is someone his age. That's their peer group. But black women are the most educated segment of our society, right? And that phenomenon happened after what? The Cosby Show, A Different World. Cosby Show had a spinoff called The Different World. Different World was about HBCUs. All those black women, who are now black women, these accomplished women, saw that and started enrolling in HBCUs. And 20 years later, you have this iteration of women who are the most educated because they saw a thing and did a thing. I think when you watch Tiger Woods play golf or the Williams sisters play tennis, you know, it is something, seeing a thing and doing a thing. It's like now when you see people lauding people who are academics as opposed to athletes, it'll be the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. Last question.
If a girl will give you some pussy because of your GPA as opposed to your 40 time, it'll get a lot better than it.
Last question. You said the most expensive thing in America is to be poor.
Yeah, it costs more. Gas costs more. Insurance costs more.
Yeah.
You never get the full value of your home. You never. Groceries are more expensive. It's so expensive in America to be poor that nobody can afford to do it. And what we always have done is co-opted the language of the poor. Everybody has a poor story. Everybody has a poor story. My father came here and he didn't speak English and he made a success of himself. Or I came from the mud, or everybody has a story because we want to be connected to a beginning, but no one wants to do anything to change that reality for anybody else. No one.
I don't know how many people that I've given checks to that go to check cashing places that take a percentage just to cash your own money.
Yeah. Just look.
Or people that I've cash app to that take out the money that same day and pay like a 3 to 5% fee just to take it out the same day, whereas 3 days later, there's no fee at all. But these companies understand how to tax the poor.
They do.
And it's sort of crazy to me. But yeah, you're right. It is more expensive to be poor than to be rich.
You know what? When buying a good meal, you know how important it is to you from a health perspective. You lost all this weight. There are things you did to do that, right?
Yeah.
Part of being able to do that was how moneyed you are. You can make a different decision.
Yeah.
But when you got to feed people, and they got to stretch further than they got to, you're not buying whole grains and low fat and lean. You buying shit that'll fill you up right now. And you got to go to hospital. Like it's so, and poverty is a thing that really is not as complex a problem as we like to believe that it is. Whatever people can't afford, like right now, somebody will work hard at a job at a restaurant. The restaurant pays them $2 an hour, $220 an hour, right?
No, that's not minimum wage.
Yeah, no.
Not California.
No. I'm not even making it now. It might be different, but restaurant employees get like $2 an hour.
Back then.
Now, they might have to pay them because California changed it, but they were paid $2 an hour. They were paid below minimum wage because they got tips. And so
minimum wage in California is $16.
Minimum wage in California, but I'm talking about for waitresses and those people, they made less than minimum wage. Look,
because of tips?
And they kind of living off tips, just like now. All right, so say you work at a big, huge retail store that's all over the country. They pay you X. You don't make enough money to have benefits. You go to the county hospital or you get food stamps. So they are using your labor, but you are using the public dole. Wouldn't it make sense to make sure that corporate people pay their fair share and people make a fair wage? Because you're going to end up paying for it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I realized over time, and this is 100% true, it cannot be debated, that the only way to build wealth is to have enough money consistently to invest.
Yeah.
And have your money grow and not have to dip into that money.
Right.
There is no other way. If you make $100,000,
I mean, you can hit the lotto.
And you spend
you can hit the lotto.
You hit the lotto, yeah.
You could be
yeah. I mean, or if you're born
right.
with a freakish ability, you know,
right.
whatever.
Right.
I get it. And we're not. I'm talking about
with the aggregate.
99.9% of people. Right. It doesn't matter how much you make. If you don't have the money to invest, and that investment grows over time, because
even if it's in a house or a business,
a house or real estate, or I mean,
right.
real estate, commercial real estate, multifamily, stock market, which is how I made most of my money. Yeah. To be able to have that money and have it grow, and not to dip into that money, to keep living below your means and keep adding to that year after year. That's the only way to really build wealth.
Right.
Because otherwise, even if you're making a good income, when that stops, and it will stop at some point, you're going to be thrown into poverty.
Right.
If you don't have those investments.
Right.
So most people who don't have investments are, I would say maybe about 30% of the people who drop off my Postmates are senior citizens.
I saw it, yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
When I order, my food and I see who drops it off, it's a lot of old people, man.
It certainly ain't kids like it used to be.
No, I would say 30% are people 65 and over. I can't imagine having to do Postmates to get by when I'm supposed to be retired.
But I remember when I got married, this is the dumbest shit in the world. I was making $4.75 an hour. I worked at the LA Times, $4.75 an hour, right? Mm-hmm. I got married in 1986. 2024, the minimum wage in California, I lived in California, right? 2024, the minimum wage went to $16, right? That's about 75 cents a year for all those years. Mm-hmm. So, and they think that's unreasonable. 75 cents a year.
Yeah.
for 30-some years. And they think that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
It's like, it's how we assess people. We place a value on them. Like nobody thought, fast food workers, anybody could do it. But when COVID happened, you saw how valuable they were. Even right now, you see how valuable they are. So we assign a value and a worth to a thing based on what we think it is. And those people still got to live here and work here. One thing that's happened between California and Texas, poor people that can't afford to live in California move to Texas. Money people, professional people who don't like the things going on, move here. And it's you need a confluence of all those things. But shouldn't you be able to work and buy a home and live and eat and take care of your family like our families were? Shouldn't you be able to do that?
I mean, these days in LA, forget about it.
But it's like that. See, everybody thinks it's less of something everywhere, but really, it's hard for anybody to get. So minimum wage in, I think, Mississippi is $7, $8, $9 an hour.
Just look it up.
Who could live off that, really? Anywhere in America. I'm not talking about just here, anywhere.
$7.25 an hour.
Yeah.
You're right.
Who could live off that?
That's less than half of California.
But who could live off that?
$7.25 an hour?
Even there, I'm just asking you, who could live off that?
Yeah, that is the equivalent of $14,500 a year.
Who could live off that?
Nobody.
Even so, but we have we raised this whole cross section of people that literally, and you could call it California, you could call it New York, you could call it whatever, but you can't afford to live where you born, where you work, where you grew up. In most places. It ain't just here. The average American lives, I think, 70% live within 50 miles of where they were born, and and a large percentage living within 50 miles of where they were born. Like all my family lives here, besides my daughter.
I've always moved around, man. I was born in the Ukraine. I lived in Massachusetts. I lived in the Bay. Then I lived in New York. Now I live in L.A. You know, like you gotta be able to move and shift and.
But you making $7 an hour? What can you do?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
What can you do? What can you do?
No, you
with
can't
that?
do shit. You can't do shit.
That is acceptable, and people actually argue that they're paid too much, and those people probably work at some place, and those people who are employees still get sick, still need food assistance. Mm-hmm. Who pays for that? Society.
Yeah.
While that corporation has used their treasure, their wealth, their wherewithal, and enriched themselves, and they still got to go get public services. That doesn't work.
Yeah. That's what it is, man. D.L. Hughley, man, always epic when you come through.
Yeah, baby.
Always.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see DL on here every other month. But when you come on here, the tidal waves come.
I gotta wait for you to be able to afford my liquor. That's what
right.
it is.
That's right. We drinking it right now. That's what it is. Till next time. Peace.